And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. It's, let me just have a look at something here. Oh, that's interesting already. Anyway, look, it's Thursday. It's the 14th of, what month is it now? It's bloody May, isn't it? Actually, it's bloody cold May. This is Paul English Live, episode 139, actually. 139. Welcome to the show. Pressing galore, but it's going better than last week. We just had a thunderstorm here for the last couple of hours. In May. Cold in May. Everyone, and welcome back. This is I do know the number of the show. You know, it's 139. I think it is. Anyway, welcome back. Hope you've had a good week. I've had a pretty good week, actually, and at least we got off technically to a reasonably decent start this evening, didn't we? There were a few little things in there, so I'm only going to try and grow an extra pair of arms to sort of deal with all this kind of stuff. And I was just saying before the show, I just got a new box of tricks that arrived. I was hoping it was going to arrive this morning, but it didn't. It just arrived an hour ago, and I was tempted to actually sort of insert it into the whole of the audio mix, and that would have made things go disastrously wrong. And so we don't want any of that, do we? Anyway, what was I just saying then? I don't know what the weather's like with you. It's been spectacular today. Eric, what's the weather been like with you?
Well, it's been persistent, the rain. No, actually, one moment you look out the window, it's nice sunshine, blue sky, little white clouds, and you look round, about 2 minutes later, you look out again, it's absolutely hammering down. And it's been like that all day, on and off, rain. And if I was a snail farmer, I'd be very rich. My garden's full of snails. They all come out when it rains, and they're slithering and sliding all over the blooming place. So there we go.
You need chickens and hedgehogs, don't you? Chickens eat snails, don't they? They eat slugs anyway. I know that. Yes. Chickens are pretty good for that. So anything that turns a slug into an egg is all right by me. I think that's pretty cool, actually. Well, and hedgehogs get quite hungry for the old slug, don't they?
Well, it's a slug and snail a knocking shop, my garden. It really is. Everything I do to put them off, it attracts them. Put eggshells down. No, they slide all over the eggshells. No problem there. Put coffee down. Oh, they like the coffee. Cool, they crumbs. They love that. But some people say put a slug pub out, and that is you put a saucer or bowl of water out. Beer outside, and they attract you to the beer, and they fall in, and they die. But the trouble is, it's a long death because they get out about 6 times and go to the lavatory. And he kept awake all night with them singing, you know. You know, so I mean, it's a slow death, but and you get snail trails all over the place, all going into the bushes area. Yes, not in a straight line.
What's the plural noun for slugs? I suppose it's slugs, isn't it? You don't think of it. So you've got a slug and slugs. I mean, what do you have? Do you have an agglomeration of slugs? What's the term? Like a troop of monkeys. It's not a troop of slugs, is it? Well, the collective nouns are always quite interesting, aren't they? I think but then I'm rather dull, actually.
What is it now? It's a pride of lions. It's a lie of politicians, isn't it? I think that's the right word, isn't it? A group of politicians are a lie of politicians, yes.
Yes.
Yes. And a word I couldn't repeat over the show of governments. But anyway,
what would you call that? Yeah, no, you probably.
Yes, I'm thinking a word. No, I can't say it on air now. I wouldn't say it anyway. It's a bit rude. But
That's it.
but one thing I have got to say to governments is a two-word thing, and the last word is off. And I think you can guess the first word.
Yes, I think I can.
Did
Answers
you see
on a postcard, please. Anybody out there that guessed Eric's quiz, answers on a postcard to Fockham Bike Sheds, and the winner will get a wonky carrot. So there we go.
That's right.
That'll be good.
And some compost delivered straight through their letterbox. How's that?
I think so.
3 o'clock in the morning. So it'd be a nice surprise when they wake up.
I must get the compost ad. I don't have it for tonight.
Yes.
I'm going to start playing it in the show. I love the compost. Have you heard the compost ad? It's great.
I heard the
it makes
compost
you want
ad.
to get into composting. Yeah,
Yes.
it's cool.
Some people say it's a load of crap, but I don't think so. I think it's quite nice. Sorry.
Compost
Talk about
is
the
where it's
compost.
Yeah. Well, I think I've actually decided upon the location for my compost heap. It turns out I've got one of those big, tall. Actually, it's not that big. It's about 3.5 feet high. A sort of plastic, I think it's known as a composter or something, with a lid on the top, and you just put it all in there. So, you know what? I've started to do that. And I looked in the other day, and it's just basically banana skins. The house is running currently on bananas.
I'm saying here, but you don't need a compost bin. The reason why, if you've got a large plastic container, if you buy bone broth or something like that, they have large plastic containers. Drill holes all around the outside of it and bury it, and then put a flower pot saucer upside down on top of it. And what happens, you put all your kitchen waste into that container, which is below ground, and it attracts worms to that container, and you don't have to fertilise your plants because the worms do that for you. And
they come and
you
eat the compost and transmit it through the soil, do they? They get on with it. They do their worming thing.
And in the summer,
that's cunningly clever. And the fact that you knew that is actually rather impressive. I quite like that.
Well,
Eric. That's pretty.
You can't fool me. I'm too stupid. So there we go. But no, actually, it works because in the summer you don't have to water your plants so much, because as the carrot scrapings and things like that, peelings, start to rot down, they're giving moisture out, and your plant roots will be attracted to it along with the worms. So you find your plants, if you're growing things like vegetables, which we'll all have to grow soon, they'll be more tasty, much more tasty. And so you won't have compost heaps all around your garden, and you have them all over at strategic points, and people won't see them. So that's a little top tip. Follow me for more top tips. So there we go.
Well, see, don't say that you tune into the show and you learn nout, because that's a good one. Little holes in the ground. Great. We just happen to have this sticking in the garden. It's been here for ever since we got here, actually. I think the people that we bought the house off left it. And, of course, it being plastic, it looks pretty much the same way as it did before. Anyway, quick sort of acknowledgements all round. Shout out to everybody tuning into us on WBN 324. Good to be back with you. We're here for the next couple of hours on WBN, a bit longer on Rumble and YouTube. We're also on FFT Radio, Food for Thought Radio. We're always talking about food, and we're trying to do some thinking as best we can. I don't know about you, Eric, but I do. I sort of try and do a bit of thinking.
Yes, I like
day,
food, yes.
Yes, I like food. I quite like thinking
I'm trying to give it up, actually, but
it does make my brain hurt.
It does. I mean, it's like anything to do with, like, going back to my tips. Remember Fuchsia's saying, "Woman that sit on jockey's lap get red hot tip." So there we go. You see, so top tips for the evening.
We're just absolutely speeding along here. It's just
right. But
it is a wealth of wisdom, and we're only 10 minutes in. It's absolutely marvelous. Marvelous. I love it. It's great.
Woman that was it. Cooks potatoes and peas in same pot. Very unhygienic. So there we go. There's another one.
No.
So.
Cool. Shout out as well to everybody in Rumble chat. I think Rumble's working okay this week, although it's still giving me a bit of grief. Yeah, and I know I'm always talking a few technical things, but that's because I'm a bit of a nerd, really. But I actually was checking it with other people, and they're using the same. I use a thing called Streamster. There you go. I'll give them a plug. To relay these streams out to YouTube and YouTube. And generally it's been pretty consistent, but something went particularly pear-shaped last week when I tried the Rumble thing, and then I had to hop back to Streamster, and it still got a bit garbled. But I think I'm just back to what I know. I don't want anything new. You know what I mean? So we're sticking to that. So we seem to be pretty solid there. So yeah, shout out to everybody in Rumble. I can see the chat's already quite lively. You're all typing like Billy-O in there, which is good. There's also, just to let you know, there's a chat. It's probably not as glorious at the moment as the chats in Rumble and YouTube, but there is a chat box on fftradio.com. It was a little bit livelier last week, so I'll be checking that out as well. I'm going to try and pull that up on the screen, but I could do with another set of eyeballs, actually. Eric, it would be really rather cool to have that.
But
yeah.
Has anybody said anything about Donald Trump's, well, I don't know quite what it is. Is it a health problem or something? But the entire embassy in China have got a health problem, because when they played the national anthem, I saw a snippet of him visiting China.
Yes.
He was standing checking his pacemaker. They're all checking their pacemakers. What a weird thing to do whilst the national anthem's being played. I mean,
yeah,
is
pacemakers.
Is it something to do with National Low IQ Week? They're doing their bit to show, you're either sort of standing with your tongue half hanging out, or you're standing put your hand up to your chest. So, it's probably Low IQ Pride Week or something. I don't know.
Yeah. There must be some Pride Week in something. There's usually something going on, isn't there? Tricycle owners, Pride Week or something like that. It's all complete nonsense and piffle, of course.
Of course, yes.
It's mad. It's totally mad. Has there been anything happening in the field of politics here in jolly old England, or is it just complete blather as usual? I was hearing a lot of blather about, people saying, let's get rid of Mr. Starmer. But they've been saying that ever since the moment he was about 10, I think. 10 years of age, I mean, he's a very difficult individual to even comprehend. I was listening to Mike Graham this morning, really just saying things that we've been saying for donkey's years, Eric, the guy's got no personality. Well, yes, it's obvious, and he can't connect with people. But apparently, I think this week, because there's some sort of challenge to his authority in the party, he's apparently decided to be witty, and he's trying to be all yeah. I didn't hear this. He's all he's grinning and he's all great. Everything's just fab, all that kind of stuff. And you're just going, I mean, basically, he's totally wonked up ever since he went off to Czechoslovakia to try and become a communist when he was about 21 years of age. They never bring that up, do they, on the BBC? By the way, he did train as a communist, and therefore he is vermin.
Yes.
They never say things like that. And, I would if I were on the BBC.
The Jolly Heretic. I don't know if you follow the Jolly Heretic. He's very interesting.
I do. Intermittently I do. When I've got a little bit of time, he does some very good sort of vox pops and things like that, doesn't he? Yeah, he's great.
And he was saying that the Labour cabinet is probably the dimmest we've ever had in ever, and the Chancellor is probably the thickest we've ever had. Absolutely as thick as two short planks.
Well, I think this is the key to the whole thing, why he's still there, because I think he can actually... He's no brainer Britain, and he's certainly had a complete, total bypass when it comes to charm or engagement or human personability or anything likable. I mean, there's a total sort of charisma bypass with this guy.
Well,
but the other creatures around him are worse, and they're spineless, of course. And I think, I mean, I'm sort of slightly laughing about it, but it's really not very amusing. It's just a crew of completely mediocre, useless people. Apparently they're trying to sort of take over something or do something. And none of them, you see, have ever been in business. None. Over 90% of the politicians in the House of Commons have never had a job. Think about that. Right. They've never had a job. They've just gone professionally into politics. And this is why the decisions that they tend to make are pretty useless. Because, the only real vision that they have is to maintain their position as politicians and to pretend to know what they're talking about. And everybody's kind of onto them except them, and they're impervious to communication. So it's a bit of a conundrum. And I get the feeling, not that I was around, I don't think I was, but sort of like when Rome started to decay, I think this is part of it, is that you get a certain generation that comes along after a while because things got so cushy and comfortable and strong, and everybody gets so cocky about things for a while. I mean, not that we've necessarily been through a period like that. But then you get a generation that's absolutely useless, soft as puddings, and that's what we've got. I mean, so he probably feels really secure because of the sort of buffoons that are in the party. But it's not that I sit around. I don't lie awake at night worrying about this sort of stuff. I just it's a given, isn't it? But
the thing is, though, I mean, we say about the decline of Rome, but it did turn into the Byzantine Empire, which lasted for about 900 years. So,
it did.
Because what they did, they
the
actually got rid of
the longest empire
right.
known to man. Absolutely. Yeah. No one talks about it much.
What they did, they just realised that it was costing too much money, the western flank of their... Western
flankers. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, a load of flankers, yes.
Yeah.
So they just basically pulled out, like the Americans are doing in the Middle East. They're sort of pulling out and of having sort of bases there. They're just using their aircraft carriers and things like that. So, but the Americans are doing roughly what the Romans did, and that is anything that's not really profitable, just get out of there. But my feeling regarding Keir Starmer, I think he's actually had a brain transplant and it's rejected him. It just looks like that. They said, we can rebuild him. We put the wrong
He's
brain
a distraction, isn't he? I mean, he's a seriously good distraction because he's such a sort of mental cripple. But I think he is a distraction. The fundamentals are that you just, the whole system is, no one wants to really look at it, but there isn't one. I mean, you hear everybody say, nothing works. Well, it does sort of. I mean, we can really, if you're going to start whining, we sort of like end up trying to become world champions at it. I'm sure people in other countries are similar. They really whine and whine and whine about it.
Yeah.
But no one's actually pragmatically turning up and wanting to fix anything because I don't think they know how to, because they don't even know what the problem is, which is them. You are the problem. You go now and forever hold your vegetables.
Yeah, but
and all that kind of stuff.
Governments create the problems. Where there's government, there's poverty and there's want. Without government, you don't get. I don't believe you get that much poverty or want, because they create the problems to justify their existence. And it's true what Ronald Reagan said. He said if government took a couple of months' holiday, nobody'd notice any difference. They wouldn't even know what's different, because it's not the government that runs the country; it's the civil service that runs the country, and nobody elects the civil service. We just elect these figureheads.
We're in a long stages. What we've got a chronic illness. Chronic means long term, doesn't it? In that regard, is that what it means? Well, we've definitely got one. I think I'm going back to what's his name, Spengler, as you do every now and again, with the Rise and Fall of the West, or whatever the name of the book was that he wrote about 100 years ago, when he was basically likening civilizations, to the life of a human body. I've forgotten what the word is that describe. There's a word to describe that. Anyway. So I said, you're born as a baby, a little fat, hairy baby, or whatever you are, and you learn your way in the world, and then they grow up and they get stronger, and then they want to do things in the ambitious building years, in your 20s and 30s and 40s, that kind of thing. You're really ploughing on with stuff. You build a big empire, it all gets great. You sit down, you rule it a bit, and you get fat, and then it falls apart and everything goes to decay. And that's really where we're at, because, not just us, but I would say the whole of the West, which is a phrase that's losing any sort of sense of meaning, I think, these days. It's just a mess, isn't it? But there's a lack of willpower. And when a tribe loses its willpower to create and build and do stuff, it stops being a tribe. It's kind of like the projects, I think, that we have engaged in. I mean, look at some of the things that we talk about. We talk about all this sort of engineering stuff from the 1800s and ships and buildings and all this other great stuff that we used to have. And we whine rightly about the sort of trash that's been produced now. It's terrible. It's a terrible sort of state of affairs. And but maybe it's just am I to just be resigned to it? I don't think so. I think you're supposed to, what's that thing, that poem? You've got to fight the dying light, fight right to the very end, if fight is the right word. But I think we do. And I don't feel, although I'm saying sentences like this right now, I actually don't feel that. I feel optimistic. That's maybe too strong a word. I feel positive. Maybe optimism is not the right word, but I do feel positive. I don't feel sort of wholly negative. I'm sort of like 20% negative and 80% positive these days, and it's actually not a bad balance, because I think you need...
got to be. Because I personally think the powers that be are shooting themselves in the foot. They really are. And it's like a thief. A petty thief goes out, and they nick something, and they get away with it. And they think, oh, and they nick something even bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually they go too far. And that's exactly where we are now. They think they've got away with it for so long, but the pigeons are coming home to roost, and I really do do believe that. But yes.
Warren says. He says there was no Roman Empire. It is utterly false. Take all the time you need, Eric. I don't know whether those. Well, that's one of those sentences like I heard the other week where Napoleon Bonaparte didn't exist. I'm going to have to take that advisedly, Warren. I can't say I agree with you.
I don't know.
Well, there was.
Well, there was. What about all the coins?
It doesn't matter whether it existed or not. It doesn't matter, you see, whether it existed or not. The fact is there's such a body of literature that has suggested the story and the myth, as I think Warren possibly thinks it is, and he may well be right, but I'm not buying into it today because there's just too much sort of repercussive evidence for it. You know, someone was telling me, I just said that, someone told me Napoleon didn't exist or something, and I'm going, well, does that mean Josephine didn't? And all that canoe. It gets too much. You just go, well, maybe you're right, but I don't know whether it's a good use of my time to sort of research the whole thing.
Keir Starmer doesn't exist, and what we're seeing is like a sort of a 3D image of him walking around, and that's what he sort of. But now, Warren, tell me more. Take all the time you need, Eric. Well, yeah.
Alice Gorgeous has put a really filthy comment in the YouTube thing. I'll have to read it out. She says they say that Keir Starmer's father should have pulled out. Well, he probably did. He probably did. I'm sure you mean of a high-level meeting. She probably means of a high-level meeting. You laugh a bit more, Eric. So we've got some vulgar people around here. I don't know what you're thinking about, Eric. She obviously meant a meeting of some sort or something like that. You know, I mean, really. But, well, it's all a bit too late for that, Alice, isn't it? It's all sort of dreadful wishful thinking and all that. But it's not, as I said, he's a distraction and we're getting hoovered in. Yes. Look, listen to us here. We're getting hoovered into it. It's all Keir Starmer's fault. It is not. He's a perfect dork for the job. You know, and as we were saying last week, he's doing a great job for his bosses. It just happens to be that it's not you and me and the electorate. Not that I'm in the electorate, because I've never actually cast a vote in any of this nonsense, because it's very, very silly.
It is silly.
Yeah, it is silly. Yet again, though, we can't avoid politics, can we? The fact that we might be right about it, which I suggest we are at this moment in time, that it's far more of a menace than it is a benefit. And probably has been like that all the time. The fact is that, unfortunately, huge numbers of people in every generation are hoovered into that space and believe that this is the way. And when they get to 70 or 80, they may realise that it isn't, but by then the damage has been done. And, you know, I can't remember, is it Socrates? You know, the problem with not participating, was it Socrates or Plato? I'll have to give him a call one day. I'd love to get Plato on it. It'd be really cool, wouldn't it? They, along the lines of, you know, the problem with not participating in politics is that you end up governed by those people that do, and the people that do get involved with it are generally stupid. You go, yep, that's logical, that makes sense. I mean, they're not all stupid, but that's kind of what we've got. Have you seen, they're apparently trying to line some people up as people that would replace Keir Starmer. Like Rachel Reeves. Now, look, by the way, if you're outside of England, Eric's laughing from good causes, right? You won't know what on earth we're talking about. Let me tell you this, you don't want to find out. It's a waste of bloody time.
That's right, Rachel from Accounts. Yes,
that's right.
And I actually think of the words of Sir Edward Grey on the 3rd of August 1914. He said, "The lamps are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our lifetime." And it's a very, that really makes you think, doesn't it? You know, and he was spot on, really, wasn't he? You know, he was right.
Well, I think the guys, that was what, Lord Grey, was it?
Yeah, I believe it was. Yes.
I mean, he was instrumental in causing the First World War. He played a huge role in that.
No, he was British Foreign Secretary. So I don't
was
think
he
so.
something
Yeah, Sir Edward Grey. It might be another Grey.
You know, that's him. I think it's him. He's pretty high up. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it was him. About 1906, 1908 or something. He was pretty active then in the run-up to World War I and all this kind of nonsense, which, again, another mercantilist power grab. And the slaughter of our people, of course, which is really the top priority here. So, yeah, no, it sparked my brain down a different channel and all that kind of stuff. But, there's a comment here on YouTube. It says, buffering is too much. Well, I agree with you, Nimble Horse. It is. Buffering is a terrible thing. You don't want to be doing too much of that. But I think he's referring to maybe the signal is a bit jammed up on YouTube.
It's buffering.
If it's buffering, there's not much I can do about this, really. It's in the lap of the internet gods. And we all know who they are, right? So at the moment, if you're having a bad signal of things, head on over to fftradio.com. You should be getting a good signal there, according to my checks here. It's all going pretty well and tickety-boo. Maybe you can listen to it there and carry on in the chat here, which is rather good. What did I miss some smutty remark there in the background?
Someone, Stubbo73 has come out with a cracker. I'm not sure I can read it out on here, Paul.
I'll read it, and I haven't read it. Let me read it. Keir Starmer wanted... Is it this one? Keir Starmer wanted to be an astronaut. When he grew up as a child, he told his tool-making father, "When I grow up, I want to shoot into space." His father replied, "You would have been if I wasn't drunk." It's really taking a foul turn, this. I'm sorry if you're listening in America. It's the middle of the afternoon. This is shocking. What kind of trash are you out there? It's just absolute degenerate people in the chat. It's foul. Yeah, Paul?
I have a question. Is Keir Starmer the Labour Party?
Yes.
Okay, well, then you guys' prayers have been answered, because didn't you have like huge elections on the 13th, and the Labour Party got literally pummeled. Starmer got pummeled, and they lost like about 1,400 seats.
Yeah, they're local elections. Not general elections, it's a local one.
Your prayers are being answered. Because the party's
it's
imploding.
kind of weird, though. We're definitely dealing with a psychologically weird situation, and you can't just all lay at his feet. The fact is that the media, or basically the other politicians, no one's doing anything. And this is the bit that's chilling. You know, like the COVID thing, where you go, well, there is a disease or there isn't, and obviously we all know it was a complete, barrel of monkeys, all that thing, right? But that wasn't the chilling bit, was it? The chilling bit was that so many people complied with the story. Well, that's what we've got going on here. The huge swarms of political people who daren't stick their neck out because they won't get paid next month. That's all this is about in the end. They're all thinking about their own pocket and all this, that and the other. I saw something as well the other day about how much money they've all got. They're quite wealthy. Ed Millipede's sitting on 15 million quid. How come? He ain't had a job, I don't think. He just talks rubbish, doesn't he? About windmills and things like this. Who's that Home Secretary guy, the African guy? What's his name? Do you know the one?
I don't know his name. No, he's the bloke who wears white trainers with his
two
suits.
Short planks. He's worth about 5 million quid. We've been doing the wrong thing, Eric. We should have just gone into politics and been smarmy and just lied all our lives. Yes. Of course, it does lead to the total ruination of your soul, but I suppose they're not really too bothered about that.
No, no, that's right.
Alice Gorgeous says, "Did you just call me a degenerate?" Well, not directly, Alice. No, I didn't. We're all degenerates here. We're getting into a bit of witty and sharp banter around here. I better rein it in, haven't I? I've probably upset someone. We don't want to do that. People start getting cross. That would be foul. We don't want any crossness.
What Stubbo said, it's hit by a funny bone. I don't know why. It's just, sometimes it's quite good. But going back to what we were saying...
I think, Eric, one of the reasons it might have hit your funny bone is it's going down a certain sort of channel of humour that I think you're reasonably familiar with.
Toilet humour,
Well, you didn't need to label it so directly, but yes, I was sort of alluding to that. Yeah.
But what we said a couple of days ago about Yuri Bezmenov. Now, I'm not religious, but what he did say, it was quite interesting, is apparently there's a chappie that wrote a book and studied and found that every civilization that abandoned religion just disappeared off the face of the earth. Ancient Egyptians.
Yep.
Aztecs. Loads of them. Just that's it, just disappeared. And so they all sort of went communist and then and that was it. Weird, isn't it? So there needs to be something... Commie. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Well, you need a binding agent, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You do.
Listen, I'm highly critical of organised religions because they're well past their sell-by date. And I think, but I suppose everything gets regenerated, so we shouldn't be all doom and gloom. I mean, it's not as if people have not gone through similar things like this in the past. I suppose most of us are thinking, why us? I wish we were going through it. Well, maybe. I mean, but this is just the way that it is right now. The plans of the bad guys, the naughty chaps, those queer little fellows, are really on, they've really got their foot on the gas right now. What was this thing that King Pudgy Fingers said the other day? King Fat Fingers.
Oh, he's bringing in AI. Because I thought it was from Yorkshire.
Digital ID. Isn't it digital ID?
Oh, sorry, digital ID, because I thought AI... That was right, because I thought AI was from Yorkshire. AI, by gum lad. But no,
I think up north we've got a little bit. So that's artificial intelligence, right? AI. But up north we've got OI. And OI is omnipotent intelligence, and all Yorkshiremen are born with it. Yeah, it's tremendous.
No, Fat Fingers. He was talking about facial recognition and digital ID.
He said it's
going
to my government. He said, didn't he? Didn't he say something like that? My government is going to... I haven't heard him because I just go, groan, The thing, how it's just this boiling of us frogs in the bucket, unfortunately, is very, very effective. None of us have got sort of like the human energetic resources to resist it over a long period of time. And really, I suppose we shouldn't be resisting it. Our energies should be going into, this is should, woulds and coulds, but I think it would be better served, when we go into building our own stuff. Because I personally can't see a better way through. I don't. Speaking of actually interesting things, and I'll have to get Mark on again in a week or so's time, but he sent me a call yesterday. He was out in some field, I don't know, throwing turnips at people or whatever he does, he said, I'm in a polytunnel. I mean, I think he must live in there now. But there's a group somewhere down south of England, out there, southwest, something like that. They don't talk like that, of course. And he was talking about a car insurance policy. Now, what I'm about to say, I can't give you any details at the moment. I just got the gist of it. So they've got some kind of a foundation, a trust, or whatever it is, and you can insure your car for £300 a year. Now, that might be a lot if you have got a really good driving record, but I suspect that's a pretty good price. I have no idea what insurance is these days because I currently haven't had a car for about a year. I'll probably get one shortly when I decide I've got to sort of, trundle around and see all the fans out there and all that kind of stuff or whatever's going on. I mean, is that pricey, Eric? Is £300 a year pricey?
Well, it depends. I mean, I pay about 180 for my Carina, which is on a classic car insurance, and about 150 for my smart car. So that is a bit pricey for me. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, there's a bit of a positive though in it. Mm-hmm. It actually insures you to drive any vehicle at all.
Oh, now you're talking.
With the permission of the. It's not an insurance policy. It's something else, and you are given a sheet of paper. A document upon your purchasing. Maybe you don't even purchase it. I don't know. Maybe you join something and you're part of some great ensemble of people. But you can drive any vehicle at all. Obviously, the driver giving you the permission. You can't just nick it off the street and say, well, I'm insured. I'm insured not only to drive it, but also to steal it off you. No, you can't do that. So it does sound very interesting. So it's 300 quid all in.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I cover both your cars. I cover both of them. So that might be
cheap, yeah. That's so. But it's a bit like in New Zealand, you can drive a car without insurance because the government cover it. You're covered by third party, so there is insurance out there. So it's it's third party only, but you can jump into any car and drive it, and you can't be stopped by the police because you're insured automatically. So that's the way they do it. I'm not sure they do it in Australia, but I know they do it in New Zealand. So if anybody's from New Zealand, any Kiwis out there, they might be able to correct me on that.
Yeah.
But I think... no, car insurance is a rip-off.
Well,
yeah, it is a rip-off. Paul, you want to say something, and we're talking all over you because we're rude. What did you want to... Go on.
I think that what they might be talking about is a surety bond on the person, maybe, because then that would insure them or cover them against any injury that they committed, whether it was in a vehicle or not.
It's not that. It's something else. We'll have to get Mark on to do it, because when he told me, I said, "Don't we? Shouldn't we get an ad for this on the radio?" He said, "Yeah." I said, many of these ideas, they just need advertising and promoting. My little sort of mantra to myself at the moment is, we've actually got all the tools and loads of opportunities to do a load of stuff. It's just that half of the tools are not known, so I need to be made aware of them, and I suspect many people out there do too. And then we just need to sort of form little sort of test out groups, as it were, and go, yeah, this works, and that works, and this didn't work so well, but this works. There's a lot of opportunity, I mean, if you're looking for a challenge in life, and you think that that's a good thing to have when you get out of bed, let's face it, we've never had such a big challenge ever. I'm being kind of buoyant as I say it, but it really is serious. And, if you can't find a causative reason to sort of get on with something right now, well, I don't know what to say, because what other choices have we got? You either sort of hunker down and, they're controlling everything. Well, they did that all the time anyway. You just weren't aware of it. Now that you're aware of it, now we've got those sort of adult responsible choices to make, like, what should I do about it? But enough of this gay banter about politics and all this other stuff. For an hour, we might return to it within the hour. We've got a guest coming up in hour 2 and a guest coming up in hour 3. Etta Vogt is going to be with us in hour 2. And Jeff's going to be with us. Jeff Roberts. Good grief. See, I told you, Paul, I'd get the name wrong. Anyway, I spoke to Jeff a little bit earlier today. He was actually on the show about 6 months ago. And we'll wait. I'll let him talk when we get some, but it's going to be quite interesting. There's a kind of little theme between the two guests, so that might work out quite well. But what I wanted to read you, I'm not going to read the whole article, is something I just stumbled across the other day from a reputable newspaper. I think it was the Daily Express or something like that, right? So listen to this. Here's the headline. Anyway, this will get your attention. Man fathered 43 children in 81 years in a remote corner of the UK. I'll read that again. A man fathered 43 children in 81 years in a remote corner of the UK.
What particular corner was it?
A very warm, hot one, I would have thought.
Yes.
A very lively one. Good grief. Very lively.
Yes.
Were we talking about Ernie Becclestone the other week, or Bernie Ecclestone? But I do think Ernie Becclestone's just great. The head of Formula One? He used to be the head of Formula One.
Oh, yeah, I remember him, yeah.
Well, he's 96 now. Right?
Bloody hell.
He's 96. Yeah, and his son's 5. Work it out. Anybody good at maths out there?
My word.
My, what a man, eh? And I saw him. Yes. He was at a tennis tournament the other day in the crowd. He didn't look any different. He's just, he always, it's just astonishing, isn't it?
Look at Buzz Aldrin. He got married in his early 90s, didn't he? Yeah, to this lovely young girl.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. And
she was after his moon rocks. That's what it was. She was only after.
That's right. No, sorry, it's too filthy.
But let me read you a little bit from this article. He was a man who relished life's modest joys. Oh, right. Getting satisfaction from angling and cultivating the vegetable garden, which we should all be doing, men. Dairy formed the backbone of his diet. Well, there you go. There's a good food thing. Whilst his leisure hours were spent hunting birds. Now, this is not recent. This is a few hundred years ago. I think it's the 1400s, this, right? But it's still fascinating. You go, it's not recent. We want to go see his 43 kids. Parish records, however, show that William Ap Howell reached the impressive age of 105. His mental sharpness and memory intact throughout was for the most part an unremarkable existence. He might well have slipped into anonymity had it not been for one astonishing claim to fame. Across 81 years, he fathered 43 children. The achievement, if it can be termed such, brought considerable renown, I bet it did, to the tiny parish of Tregaen on Anglesea's northwest Wales. Right, Anglesea's in northwest Wales. His memory lives on in the churchyard of the local 14th century church, devoted to a saint far less chronicled than its most famous parishioner. So that's really quite something, isn't it? Isn't that something?
I think they had problems getting the coffin lid down, didn't they? Something like that, that's how I heard.
Yeah.
But, yes, but we won't go there.
Every situation's not an opportunity for that sort of filth and smut. But I'm glad you took advantage of it. So there you go. He started when he was 21, fathering children. So if he did it over how many? What did he say? Over 81 years. That means he last sired a child when he was 102.
Blimey. So 102. Whether
now you know what your duty
going.
is. Never give up. Never give up. Right?
No. Well, Des O'Connor fathered a child well into his 70s, didn't he?
Yeah, so it looks here as though from, let's see, what age did they say was? 100 and something or other.
105.
He died anyway in 1581, so that means he must have been born about mid to late 1470s. 1470s. This is before Reformation.
Yeah.
It's before the English Civil War. It's before Elizabeth I. It's outrageous. Aged 105, he begat 43 children. 43.
Bet they didn't have electric lighting in those days, did they? And they'd never heard of
I don't think that
Marmite,
explains it,
Bovril.
frankly, Eric. It's just a pathetic reason. If only we'd had electric lights, I wouldn't have had all these bloody kids.
Mind
43.
you, his house was
impressive.
modern. They did say it's up and coming, his house, so I mean, that he did probably live in a life of leisure.
Yeah, well, think about it. It says here, I only skimmed the whole thing. I thought it's just worth mentioning. His first wife, Ellen Williams, gifted him with 22 children. Now, ladies, come on, get a move on. His second wife, Catherine Richards, added another 10. His third wife, Ellen Williams, contributed a mere 4. Pathetic. His 3 marriages resulted in a total of 36 children. Oh, that means he sired some more outside of wedlock. Good grief, what a fella.
What the women
die
of? Exhaustion?
All that dairy, all that cheese and milk, mate. That's what did it. It's absolutely outstanding, isn't it? 43. I mean, I don't know what the world record is. I'm sure there's people that are sort of like hundreds.
Perhaps it was the alcohol they had in. Perhaps it's the alcohol they had in those days. Perhaps he had to have a stiff one before he, shall we say, did the act. I'm talking about that's an old English saying, by the way. It means having an alcoholic drink, of course.
Well, the beer back then was very, very weak. Maybe that helped. It just helped enough, but it didn't sort of create brewer's droop, as it's often referred in technical manuals, I think. And obviously not in his case. Because I think it was about 0.5%. Gosh, it's a smutty show tonight, isn't it? I don't know what's going on.
Well, I think he was a dirty, filthy, lucky sod.
That's it. Well, good grief. I wonder how many grandchildren there were. I mean, if they all had 43 as well, that would be 1,600. They didn't, by the way. They didn't. But if you want to build a tribe, we have to take a leaf out of his book. Well, possibly not, but you know what I mean. I
think Huey Green sired quite a few, though, didn't he? Huey Green did. He was quite famous. I think I reckon there's about 10 or 20 kids he had out of wedlock, because he was with all the dancing girls and things like that. And
we like the dancing girls, yeah.
Because did you know that girl Yates? She found out that Jess Yates wasn't her father; it was Huey Green. And there's things like that was very sad.
Actually, further on in the article, and we will move off of this topic. I'm sure everybody's squirming delightfully in their chairs. Some researchers at Vienna University have gone all over the place digging. So there's a few more notable examples of other people that have sired quite a few children more than this chap. Include the 18th century Polish King Augustus II the Strong. He would have bloody because he had approximately 370 offspring. 370. I would imagine that most people don't have conjugal rights 370 times in their married life. I mean, really, seriously. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. And 20th century Swazi King Sobhuza II, who reportedly had 70 wives and 210 children. Additional examples featured Sultan Ibrahim Noya, Cameroon's King of Bamum, B-A-M-U-M, Bamum, I quite like the sound of that. Approximately 600 wives, you see, because they've got a different situation, and 177 children. So he had more wives than children. So there's 400 of them never got the joy of becoming mothers, I suppose, at least. Emperor Min Ming, that's an unfortunate name, and Saudi Arabia's King Saud, who had approximately 110. So, gentlemen, do your duty. There we go.
That's
pretty impressive, isn't it?
It seems to me that a lot of them needed pebbles in one of their shoes because it would have made them limp.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh no!
Well, one of the
Did you hear
women-
that just then? Did you hear that deadly
Yes.
silence? That was one of those tumbleweed moments, Paul.
One of the women wanted her husband to do something so disgusting. He was so disgusted he gave her a mouthful. Angry, of course. What is it with people? They've got filthy minds. The audience,
Now
when you give
remember,
someone
this is a
mouthful.
political show. This is a political news and alternative information show. I've just made that up right now. And I think we need to sort of rein it in a little bit. I'll probably be getting
There's
something
nothing
from the
rude.
telex, or there'll be a messenger boy knocking at the door out of bed saying, there's a very serious communication here from head office. Oh, my God, we're in a lot of trouble.
But there's
So,
nothing rude. Is any rude?
no.
You think it's rude? It's all very
Yes,
polite.
okay.
If someone has an
everybody
argument,
thinks it's
yes.
rude, Eric, and you know that.
I'm very innocent. I'm a young
of
lad.
course.
I don't know such
course.
things. Of course. Yeah, you see, you don't know these things. But it's a wonder they had time to do anything really. I mean, apart from knocking up kids. I mean.
Well, mate, they didn't, did they? I mean, maybe that's all you did. I don't know. And a bit of whittling, although it sounds as though he's doing
Yes.
plenty of that anyway.
Yes.
But, there was, I don't know what you do in the 14 and early 1500s in Anglesey. Have a lot of kids if you're this guy.
Yeah,
Obviously.
but
A lot of children, I should say. Kids are goats, and we shouldn't call them that. And I just did. But yes.
But you're right. I think really though, looking at it another way, Victorian families looking at it seriously they had about 14 children. The reason why, because the amount that children that died at an early age was incredibly. It's only until after the Industrial Revolution, when it became cleaner, that people survived. Women survived childbirth, and people survived because the death rate was so high. A woman went into labour and it was 50-50 whether that child would survive. And sometimes they didn't survive much past 2 or 3 years of age. And it's only when it became more hygienic that the people, our population went up. But the amount of childbirth that resulted in stillbirths and things like that was through the roof years ago. And that's why the Victorians had 14, 15 children, because they knew that 50% of them wouldn't survive. Much beyond, say, 10.
I was up late last night, not siring children. You'll be all pleased and delighted and relieved to know. But I was on, we had Victoria Rickson on here about 5 or 6 weeks back.
Yeah.
Maybe not even that long. I don't know. Anyway, she started a show last night on FFT Radio, 9 to 11 on Wednesdays. It was quite intense and a bit like, I had a good time actually, although it was a bit of a surprise because a bit like when I was assisting Gary to get started on the Monday evening show, which is all about blockchain. So I've been a bit of a radio tart this week. I've been all over the place. I have, actually. I was on with Blackbird 9 at midnight on Saturday on RBN for an hour, which is just an absolute... It's just getting started and it ends. It's just an incredibly fast hour for some reason. So I did that. I was on with Ria on Sunday. We had a great chat about Miles Johnston. I might get time to sort of squeeze some comments in about that before we close out this hour. And then I was on with Gary on Monday. And then... I said to Victoria, I said, look, she might be listening to this. I said, I'll be there at the start. And I think she thought she meant I'd be there. In fact, she definitely thought that because she said, oh no, you're going to be on with me. I went, okay. So she's very good. It's very detailed. I mean, it's very sort of serious stuff. It's about the whole sort of destruction of midwifery and all these other things. But a nice sort of colleague of hers called the lovely Tess. I think it was the lovely Tess. If it's not, it was the lovely something. She was lovely. She was very nice. She's a midwife. And they were talking about all this kind of stuff. And we were talking, of course, about large families and the whole aspect of them. But you see, it's a cultural thing. And, of course, our culture is being chewed up. The whole story that people are telling themselves now is I've got to spend all my life on my smartphone and get a career and blah, or whatever it is. All these ingredients that are in people's lives have absolutely worked against the development of families. And, of course, the family is the number one target of international communism, which is called globalism these days, of course, as you all know. The destruction of the family unit is right there at the heart of it. And that's because you can't subdue a people if they've got strength in their families. Ta-da! And I know most of you listening to this already know that, but it's always worth reminding ourselves of that. And so we were touching upon that kind of theme. I think I mentioned here before, my mum was one of 8. And then she outdid me. Her mum was like one of 14 or something. Oh, bloody hell, I can't even win there, you know. It was just, I gave up at the end. Because I thought 8 was quite a lot. It is quite a lot. But, you know, she repeated a fact which she said when she was on here. Up until the mid-30s, and when did the NHS come in? 38 or something like that? It was something like that. It was
No,
just before
48.
the war, wasn't it?
No, it's 1948.
All right. Well, prior to that, and prior to the great onslaught of World War II, 94% of all women gave birth at home and had, as they'd done for millennia. 94%. And there were obviously tragic cases of the death of mothers and the death of babies, of course. But in fact, all these promises of this high-tech approach to dealing with it are producing a different type of... They're not necessarily that much better. Now, I don't know the statistics, so I'm not to be quoted on that. But I get the impression, seriously, that the culture with all of the hospital system and everything is part of this grind down, and it's all becoming... Every single area that we look at, you know, everything that we talk about here is sort of getting chewed up because of systemitis. Oh, no, these are the forms you've got to fill in. And it's like we've mentioned before, you know, about computers and the laser printer. It's actually complicated things. You go, well, we've got this thing to actually simplify stuff. Oh, no, I can send you a 70-page report now at the press of a button. Don't. I ain't got time to read it. Can't you sum things up?
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's the automaton generation. I'll just copy and paste my thoughts and ideas. And to some degree, unfortunately, that's what AI is doing. Although there's good uses for it. It's just, it's all down to individuals, you know.
It's how it's used. But when you look at history, I've been going back to what we were saying earlier. When you look at folk that's done things on their own, for example, Henry Ford. Now, they reckon if Henry Ford, if the motor car hadn't been invented, but we had, you know, a world like we got today, he would never have been able to make the Model T Ford. And he made them so they became cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And it was the most common car in the world. There was more Model T Fords than any other car. Now, it was absolutely, whether you like him or dislike him, he made it so that the average person could afford a motor car because it is
Ford.
That's right, because it is mass production. Now, when you look at eBay, now you either like it, but I think I don't like Amazon. I prefer eBay. When you think about it, that is individual people. They've done a marvellous job because people are frightened. They can't commit. Hello, what's going on here?
Don't worry, it's all right. Let me just put that there like that. We go. So that's our guest for hour 2, who's just calling in. He's coming in by telegram and he can hear us, so that's cool. Brilliant timing. That's excellent. And so sorry about the dingle dongle there, but it just happens. I've got a few little too many channels open at the moment. But yeah, he's not joining us in the studio. He's going to come in via telegram. What were you saying, Eric? Anyway,
I was saying, when individuals have done things without government, they've generally worked out fine. It's when government gets involved, it all goes pear-shaped. Yeah. And that's the thing. We got to have faith in ourselves. We don't need these mumpties. We don't need civil servants. We don't need these ding-dongs. We are absolutely perfectly capable of creating the world that we want. And we could have a fantastic world if it wasn't for governments, because governments have caused all the ills in society. And it doesn't matter what government it is. They've all committed these ills. They create the problems. And that's my little soapbox piece for tonight.
No, you're right. Yeah, you can come back to it regularly. Reminder is a good thing. We had Miles Johnston was on last week as well. This is just a quickie because I'm going to go to a song earlier today because I've got a 6-minute song to play. I'm going to give you a little story about that too. Miles Johnston was on last week. You remember him talking about the, I don't know if you were sort of tuned in at that point, Eric, but he was talking about this transmitter that they built. I think it was County Monaghan or something.
That's right, yes.
1.2 million watts. Well, when I was on with Ria on Sunday, because she knows, she's a real tech bird, she knows a lot about this kind of stuff. And whilst I was on the show, I mentioned it. She said, that can't be right. No. And I said, look, I don't know. I'm just a layman. I don't know about that stuff. I know other stuff at levels, but I don't know about that today. I don't know whether I'm ever going to find out. But I like the way Miles was so enthusiastic about it. It's brilliant, He's actually been up at a tech show in London, the Media and Something show, and said, no. He just sent me a message today saying, nobody here knows about audio processing, because I'd been talking to him about it briefly, because I am a bit of a nerd with that stuff. And she said it couldn't be right. Anyway, I said, go listen to the show. So she did. And she got back to me. It was great. She said, now I understand. She said, that makes sense. because he was going into it in details that I didn't have an understanding to really comprehend all of the details that Miles was going into. So basically, they were having a sort of multi-array antennas all over the place for an FF thing, but 1.2 million watts is massive. That up in Crowborough, which is not far from me, they built the world's largest radio transmitter in 1940. This is Sefton Delmer and that crew, and there's still a little box of concrete there, which was sort of like the station. I think they've taken the antenna down. The mast is not there anymore. That was 500,000 watts. That was huge. And it was built by an American company because they were the ones that have been building big transmitters to deal with the States, with the radio growth over there in the 1930s and 1920s. And so they put that in there. And that was to broadcast propaganda to the German troops, all that kind of stuff, So,
wow.
So there we go. Anyway, it was cool. It was great. I loved all that kind of stuff. And Miles is a great asset. He's got some more stuff to go. He did a good show with another Dutch person on Tuesday, just gone, who swore quite a bit in Dutch. But then he sent me a message that said, swearing in Dutch is not really swearing. I thought, well, maybe not. Anyway, Eric, I'm going to play this song now, a little bit of a backstory, because it's 6 minutes long. We're at 57 minutes past.
Okay.
Mark got a call from somebody from, let's call it a group. I've yet to find out a bit more. Called The Political Bangers. The Political Bangers. And he puts songs and music together, and it could turn out to be a real big boon, I think, for FFT, because Mark was calling me up. He said, this guy says he can really knock up music quick in any genre, any format, any sort of lyric type stuff. And he sent one over to Mark about farming, which is 6 minutes long. And I quite like it, right? So it's 6 minutes, everybody. You can put the kettle on, leave the radio on if you're going to do all that kind of stuff. On the other side of the break, our guest, Jeff Roberts, is going to be here talking about publishing and ArmReg. And if you don't know what that is, you're going to find out. It was on, as I said, a few months ago. But here we got this song from The Political Bangers. It's 6 minutes long. So here we go.
Low tractor engine. Wind across an empty field. Dark acoustic guitar. Slow boot stomp rhythm. Soft banjo in the distance. No farmers, no food. They told you food comes from shelves. It doesn't. It comes from hands they're trying to break.
There's a man at the gate with a bill in his hand, looking over 3 lives buried deep in the land. Granddad built it, father held the line. Now the sun signs phones just to buy more time. Rain comes wrong, sun burns late. Bank wants blood and the state wants a state. Supermarket smiles while the margins bleed. Somewhere in the boardroom they're buying the seed. This ain't just farming, this is control. Who owns the bread when they own the soil? Who owns the future when the old farms fall? Who feeds the nation when they bought it all? They don't see the frost on the window. They don't see the debt in the field. They don't see the price of survival or the quiet pain behind the yield. They don't hear the mother at midnight counting every cost by the sink. They don't hear the father say we'll manage when he knows they're on the brink. Who owns the fork? Who owns the field? Who writes the price on every meal? Who owns the seed? Who owns the rain? Who feeds the world and gets the blame? Hands in the dirt, hearts in the storm, born from the land, battle worn. If the farms go down, we all feel the fall. No future on the table when they're taking it all. No farmers, no food, no farmers, no food, no farmers. There's a man in a motor with mud on his shoes, saying look past the label, look past the news. What got sprayed? Who got paid? Who took the farmer out the food chain? For the system, not the soul. Heal the soul before we lose control. You can't barcode the morning rain. You can't factory build what the earth became. They made food cheap, but the cost range less local, more miles, more power and chains, more polished lies in supermarket lanes. Diesel goes up, fertilizer gets tied, ships stop moving when the world starts fights. Weather turns strange, crops don't grow, then they blame the farmer when the shelves run low.
They don't see the auction sign waiting. They don't see the bloodline sold. They don't see the child in the doorway watching history lose its hold. They don't see the kitchen table where the bad news lands like stone. They don't see the last generation trying not to lose their home. Who owns the fork? Who owns the field? Who writes the price on every meal? Who owns the seed? Who owns the rain? Who feeds the world and gets the blame? Hands in the dirt, hearts in the storm, born from the land, battle worn. If the farms go down, we all feel the fall. No future on the table when they're taking it all. This ain't just wheat. This ain't just me. This is every plate on every street. Milk in the fridge, bread in the hand. Culture, bloodline, soil and land. You tax the roots, then curse the tree. You break the farm, then ask where's tea. You squeeze the grower, worship the chain, then wonder why the food bill climbs again. The fork is power, the field is crown. Control the food and you control the town. Control the seed and you control the birth. Control the hunger and you own the earth. No farmers, no food. There's a gate that still remembers granddad's hand. There's a child who wants to work that land. There's a mother hiding tears at night. There's a father saying we'll be alright. But the world keeps turning, the costs keep burning, and the rain keeps falling where the crops stop growing. Still they rise, still they stand. Broken hearts, faithful hands. Who owns the fork? Who owns the field? Who writes the price on every meal? Who owns the seed? Who owns the rain? Who feeds the world and gets the blame? Hands in the dirt, hearts in the storm, born from the land, battle worn. If the farms go down, we all feel the fall. No future on the table when they've taken it all. No tractor engine, wind across the field, base fades. First they priced out the farmer, then they bought up the seed, then they rewrote the recipe and called it what we need. Who owns the fork? Who owns the field? Who changed the food and called it a meal? The political bangers, where the truth gets a beat before the system gets away with stealing the field, owning the fork.
Now that's the political bangers with Who Owns the Fork. Quite long, wasn't it, Eric? Wasn't it? 6
Yes.
minutes? Don't know if you caught all
Yes.
of that.
Oh, it's a big
Anyway,
one.
it's almost like an anthem for Food for Thought Radio, certainly for
I
farmers.
like it.
Anyway, yeah, I thought it was pretty nifty, really. And the guy behind it called me up. He said, "Do you want a shorter version?" I said, "No, don't knock yourself out. That's fine. 6 minutes is good. In fact, breaks should be round about that." So I hope you all got your kettle on and had a cup of tea. Anyway, we've got Jeff Roberts lined up here on the other line. Jeff, hi, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Paul.
Hi. Let me just give you a bit more volume. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you getting on?
Oh, we're having a party here. We're having a fun little time of the whole thing. And you were on, I don't know how many months ago. Is it 4 or 5 months back now? It's probably back end of last year, wasn't it, I think?
I think it was, but I can't remember when it was.
Right. Well, don't worry. It's not a quiz. You don't have to get it exactly right. I'm just sort of speculating and guessing. But for people that don't know, Jeff, and maybe from one little appearance on this show, it's unlikely that you would know too much. You are part of ArmReg, isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm the director.
Right. And maybe you'd like to just tell people a little bit about what ArmReg does and what it's about. And me too, I guess. It would be nice to know. I mean, I kind of know, but I'm just giving you an in.
Well, the situation was ArmReg was formed about 3 years ago as a company
Mm-hmm.
and our main product was the Holocaust Encyclopedia. Let me just tell you about the Holocaust Encyclopedia. It's not a encyclopedia which is just a standard rehash of the conspiracy sort of orthodox sort of type theory. It's based on facts. It's a huge book. It's nearly 700 sort of pages long, A4 format, full colour, and it's a marvellous sort of book.
It is. I've got a copy, courtesy of you. Thank you very much. It's very heavy, very big, and very impressive. It is.
Yeah, and what it does, it's doesn't censor anything, so everything's in there, warts and all. It's an unrestricted view, so it's going into places which other so-called historians won't go through, and it exposes what's false. So it takes out what's false. The thing is that it shows you how the Holocaust, as it's sort of called, came into being. What happened? Why it's there? And the situation is, it's now developed to such a sort of situation where it's defended, and anybody that tries to expose it, tell the truth about that, is automatically sort of cut off. You don't see anything about it in the media, and nothing in the newspapers. No investigative journalists will pick it up. It's a complete blackout.
Yeah.
See? And if people want to live in that type of society, well, that's it. But you should have the choice to do so. So the thing is, the important thing is that it's preparing the modern world. And the modern world is when you have to have an official account of what actually happened. If you go against that official account, you can end up in quite serious trouble. So, yes. But here, this book gives you all the information you ever wanted, the information you didn't know that existed, and it's right at your fingertips. 700 pages, nearly 600 entries, 360 odd illustrations. It's an incredible sort of work.
It is. No, it is. I can vouch for that. The thing that's really, there are other books that are similar in terms of their structure, in the sense that you can go in at any page and read something and it's got valuable information all over the place. I mean, you have to follow it through in chapters and sort of little sections and stuff. But there are things that, I mean, I'm aware of a great deal about the process that you're talking about. I'm not alone. I should imagine many of the listeners, certainly here on Rumble and YouTube, in the sort of heart of the show, as it were, know quite a bit about it too. And for people out there on WBN and FFT and other places, it might be kind of an edgy topic. But again, you know, this is all about, do we really have freedom of speech? At least you've obviously got freedom of publishing for now. That would seem to be true, wouldn't it?
Well, that's quite true in that, but I have to admit I was quite worried about the recent events that took place in Golders Green when
yes.
This Somalian British person, as they say, stabbed two Jews outside a synagogue. And then the entire establishment went into sort of overdrive. You know, they announced more money to be spent, 58 million, I think. 300 more policemen to be recorded, and then they started talking about more Holocaust education in schools, more children being taken to Auschwitz, and you think to yourself, well, what's that exactly got to do with it? But then you realise it's all the way the establishment will react. That's how they react. So, and then it came out that this person who had done it, who was a Somalian of new British person, he had actually stabbed his flatmate that morning. So it does seem to be a bit odd and total overreaction by the government. But
well, they put a theme on it, I guess, given the location. But this guy basically went on a stabbing spree, and he just happened to stab people that were nearby. And if he was in Golders Green, they were likely, I suppose, from a sort of census point of view, to be people of Jewish descent, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think on the film you can see he stabbed one person, and then the next person who was coming along was he was the next to be stabbed. And so you get this sort of situation. So you're getting propaganda all the time. and this sort of propaganda is coming over from this highly sensitive nature that our government has towards Zionism and Israel and Jewish people. But, you only have to look at, say, Keir Starmer. He's got some Jewish ancestry. His wife's Jewish. He's bringing up his children as Jews. And you've got Lord Helmer, who's the Attorney General. He's Jewish. Then you've got the Miliband's, Marxist Jews. It's a very big sort of influence. The Jewish influence in Britain is extremely big. And the Islamic influence by nature, even though there's much more people, is actually much smaller. So, but that's the sort of attitude you have. And
not as small, Jeff, as the influence of actual English, Scots, Welsh, Northern Irish and Irish people, though. We seem to be at the bottom of the tree when it comes to actually being able to influence the conduct and the manner in which our country's managed. What do you
Well,
think?
that's right. I think we're being sidelined. And my earliest experience when I was 17 was that we went up to the House of Commons and we was told about democracy and how wonderful it was, and everybody can say their own viewpoint without fear or favour. And then so the school arranged a debate. At that time, there was a party called the National Front. Was it actually invited along to this debate? And at the very last moment, they were cancelled. And the headmaster, who's called Reuben Gill, he was an ex-Austrian Jew, and he said, "I don't like them; they're not taking part." And I was just absolutely amazed. I would have thought the headmaster would have sort of overruled his decision and said, "Well, no, we're going to have democracy here, and if you don't like it, well, that's too bad." But he didn't. So at a very early age, I was getting the sense that our views don't really count very much.
No.
So, and you think about now the amount of non-white elements in Britain is just absolutely enormous. And I'm talking about when I was some time ago, sort of nearly 50 years ago. So. That is incredible. This is shaping what sort of destiny we're going to have in this country. And the psychological warfare, which has been put out by the Holocaust of this gas chambers and this incredibly evil sort of thing, which must be defeated at all costs, it is incredible because they're just like so hypersensitive about it. Just today we had West Streeting sort of going on about dangerous nationalists and all this sort of stuff. It's an incredible thing. And I think what's happened is that this is like a psychological sort of grip. So if you're given something, you already know the answer to something that you're not supposed to like or not supposed to sort of give any sort of credence to.
Well, I think one of the aspects of it as well, Jeff, is that as a topic, you can even feel it in the air in this conversation, right? It's like, are we allowed to talk about this? That's actually building up. And what's occurring, of course, because of the amount of time they've been pounding away, is that we naturally self-censor. You don't realise that you're doing it, but a few years go by and you go, It's like, let's not talk about that. But of course, there are many topics like this. This is a very big one because, one of the views I hold is that we still live in the shadow of that conflict. Although the current one that's brewing, the current one that's taking place in terms of the social engineering conflict between our so-called leaders and us, the cattle on the farm, looks as though it's going to be on a colossal scale, but it's not going to be conducted, I don't think, in terms of military operations like it was in the past. They've got so much more sophisticated psychological programming techniques, many of which, of course, began in the last century around World War I, even prior to World War II, when all of these supposed events took place. And many events did take place, of course, but the actual, the main, the gist of it is this: are we not allowed to ask questions about things? And it would appear the subtext of this, not about this, sir. No, you can't. You've got to just accept. And that is, it's not so much, even if I say it's unacceptable, it's meaningless. The fact is it is unacceptable on a sort of intrinsic human level. It doesn't wash with anybody that goes, Well, I can ask questions about the Battle of Waterloo. I can ask questions about, the Greco-Roman Wars. I just want to ask questions about this. Is that all right? No, it's not. Oh, why? Why is it? Immediately it becomes a problem,
That's right. I think the situation, you put that quite well, is that what's happening is you've got to go along with a line here. And you do it, they can do it in certain ways. They can plaster it all over the TV, which they do. But you never see anything about communist atrocities or hardly anything whatsoever. No. Take Katyn Forest. The Soviet Politburo just said, well, all these Polish officers, they had about 25,000 Polish officers in their custody.
Yeah.
They said, we think they're dangerous. Just have them all killed. And so Stalin approved it, so did the rest of the Politburo, and all the ones that were in a certain camp near Stabilesk in Russia, they took them down the road to an NKVD place, and they shot them all in the back of the head in the batches of 30 or 40.
Yeah.
Now, what happened was that would probably have remained a complete mystery. The only thing was that Germany launched an attack on the Soviet Union in 1941, and during the subsequent sort of time, that grave was found by Polish auxiliary workers and excavated, and the Germans brought in experts from various sort of countries to prove it. And
they did. They brought people in from outside, didn't they? I think the Red Cross went, and people from Sweden and other maybe impartial countries. That report, of course, was not publicised because by then they'd got the story going that the Germans had shot them. But
that's right. Yeah, that's right, Paul. And the situation was that the Soviets came back. They dug everybody up again and said, no, the Germans did this, and they was helped by the fact was that the bullets there were German, because the Germans government had sold a batch of bullets to the Soviet Union beforehand, the Weimar Republic. And then they tried to introduce it at the Nuremberg trial, and that completely failed, totally failed to sort of stick. And then they said, we have a trial of our own. So they put people on trial at Leningrad, and I think it was about a dozen sort of SS officers, and they confessed, and then some of them were hung, and the rest sent to the Gulag. So they can just manufacture evidence. When people say, well, they wouldn't manufacture evidence, they certainly would do, because that's the idea. The idea is to defame your political opponents. So there's lots of this sort of stuff. There's a good sort of stuff that is told about Mengele, Joseph Mengele, the doctor of death or whatever he's called. Yeah. And you got two witnesses at the Bowers and Auschwitz trial. One of them says, I was sent to the gas chamber and I was just being gassed and everything. And then a German came in, called out my name, and led me out of the gas chamber and shut the door again. And Dr. Mengele gave me sort of special treatment for 6 weeks to bring me back to health. And I found out that it was because my mother had appealed for him, said I was important. And that was Sophia Litkowski. And there's another one called Regina Bielak. Her story is quite similar. An SS man came and got her out, called out her name. And but both of them also said they was actually tipped into the gas chamber by a tipper type lorry. And you think, well, that is the evidence they gave under oath, and it's just obviously nonsense. How many people would go into a gas chamber where you've got a lethal Cyclone B cyanide gas and get out a Jew? That's
technically it doesn't add up. You've got, in my view, I suppose I've got to say that, right? But to anybody looking at it logically, it doesn't add up. And you remember Bishop Richard Williamson? He spoke out about this really rather brilliantly during the last sort of 10, 15 years of his life. Maybe he'd been doing it for longer than that. But I remember him saying something. He said, you've got all the logic and evidence on one side, and on the other, you've got nothing but emotion and haranguing and the sort of implied reactiveness of that. And so people get cowed because of it. And the people in politics will never be able to deal with this. It's a verboten topic. I used the word intentionally. It just is.
It's a topic that has been burnt into people's emotions,
Yes.
and people react very emotionally to it.
Yeah.
And yet, when you look at it, it's very easy to sort of show how untrue it is. Because, take for example, the Germans had extensive documentation, and they used to have a Sterbucher, which is mortality register, or they used to be called the death books.
Yeah.
And so they're actually mortality registers, like you would have at a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1992, when the Soviet archives were opened for the first time, this was under the Yeltsin presidency, and he had, well, communism had just been actually sort of overthrown at this time, 1992. And the archives in Moscow opened up, and they found 49 of these death books, right? And each one of them can hold up to 1,500 names. And when they looked a bit further, they found correspondence from the Dutch, who were interested in finding out what happened to the people deported from Holland.
Yes.
And the Soviets actually said there was 80 such books. They had been done in triplicate, and they've been sent to Gross-Rosen concentration camp.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and there's 80 altogether, and there's 1,500 each, so that makes a total of 120,000 maximum.
Mm-hmm.
So you just looking at that example, and you think, so well, hang on a minute, but they said over 1 million, and yet the books only say 120,000. So it's just absurd. How can it be more than 120,000 if they're keeping track of everybody?
I know.
So
we're in a space though where truth and facts appear to most people to not count for very much. I suppose in part because of the long-term exposure to the official narrative, because it's been considerable, it's been prolonged. Of course, people are not aware that official narrative didn't start until really the early 60s, did it?
Well, that's an interesting point, because I think it was David Irving who sort of pointed out that term Holocaust didn't really come into being until 1960s, 70s, something like that.
That's right.
So there wasn't using that sort of term. Well, there's so much sort of information which is out there, but it's all being suppressed. It's very much like a complete blackout on anything you want to say.
Yeah.
You try and put it on Facebook, you'll be thrown off it. You try to put it on sort of X, you'll be put off. You'll be sort of thrown out. I mean, they just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know whether they don't want to talk about it, but they certainly they're not really aware that the topic is available to discuss, and they don't want to be part of it, understandably, I guess, because of the pressure that they may feel, or the anxiety that they may feel by looking at naughty stuff, things that you're not supposed to look at. I know I'm expressing it in a sort of childish way, but I think that's how it begins. People go, oh, well, we'd just rather go along to get along. But the problem is that we're not going along together in any particular way, that there's this issue. And either we can employ the question mark in any and all situations, or we can't. And we can, and we do it anyway. I mean, this is why people just do it in their heads. And then you get disturbed individuals. We all get disturbed. We go, look, we need some validation for this. Is a red bus red? No, it's blue. Okay, we got a problem. And obviously, one of the cultural Marxist things is to mangle up the definition of words and get people operating with a split mind. And we've got that everywhere with all this sort of like men can be women and women can be men nonsense and all this other stuff. It's an extension of the same sort of tactic. And it's absolutely massive in this field, isn't it? It's massive.
That's absolutely right, Paul. If you tell a lie 6 million times, it's still a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't affect me. The other thing is that most people nowadays have come came off Greek rationality, to think rationally, make decisions, work out the facts and everything like that. And now going on to something I call Jewish mysticism. It's a religion. It's something you have to believe. They say if you don't believe in the Holocaust, you can be in serious sort of trouble.
Yeah.
And how far you want to disbelieve it and how far you want to push it is taking your own sort of thing at risks. When we've produced the Holocaust Encyclopedia, it's got out there. It's there's another big edition coming out soon, which will be the 5th edition, more material,
right,
bigger book, everything like that. And we've got it out. We got editions out in Spanish, in French, which has been highly successful. Over 700 copies sold in French,
wonderful,
which is amazing sort of thing. We got a Portuguese, Greek, and Polish versions on the cards. And the next big thing is that we got the Arabic version coming out, which should be out in about a month's time. But it's amazing. It's Arabic, it's written the other way, and so all the numbers are written the right way.
Right.
And it's just one of the most difficult languages to learn.
I would imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine it is actually. Yeah.
So so we got that coming out, which is excellent. So yeah, we got lots of sort of stuff coming out. The only trouble is getting it out, people to notice.
And that's the great. I mean, the hegemonic media power, for want of a better phrase. That I've often felt that their great strength is not the lies that they tell. You can sort of pick those out. It's the truths that they don't allow onto the stage. It's a greater power, because basically what it's doing is it's narrowing people's sort of context for what's taken place here. And it is, of course, an extremely unpleasant tale. No one's saying that it's not a matter of sort of glorying the fact that we don't believe that particular myth is true. And the word belief as well. I mean, isn't a belief something that occurs in the absence of verifiable fact or something like that? I don't know what the definition of it is. Like when people say, do you believe in God? I say, no. I know God exists, but prove it. Well, no, I'm not going to, you do that. You can make your own mind up about it. But I think it's that most people, of course, are not thinking anywhere near as deeply as they could and probably should, would, could and should and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, the numbers that you've just given for copies sold is pretty impressive given the scale of the book. And I suppose, you can't market this. This is the whole, you can't take it into the marketplace and be unmolested, figuratively speaking, can you? You can't.
You can't. You can't sell it on Amazon. It won't appear on X, or it won't appear on anything like that. Mm-hmm. No sort of library will, no sort of bookshop will sell it. Mm-hmm. And if they do, there will soon be sort of hostile demonstrations, and then the pressure behind the scenes to get it removed and everything like that. Yeah. So, just imagine, we get sort of put things on Amazon and then just taken off again. Mm-hmm. Eventually, they work out we have to put them on there. So, mm-hmm. So you're not getting really any exposure, because it's coming from the top. The Allies don't want you to talk about it. In the Soviet Union now is the Russian Federation. It's banned. You can't do any historical revisionist on books. So you can't do it. You can't do it in the Ukraine. It's mm-hmm. also banned in various other countries. They don't want to talk about it. In Britain, there was a time when the Labour Party was actually going to sort of ban Holocaust revisionism. Yeah, looks like we do, but they didn't have the time to get it through Parliament. Right, and they're so disorganised, it's unbelievable. But the attitude they displayed towards anything which is so-called far right or anything like that is terrible. It's appalling. People just. But it is. I agree with you. But it's kind of, I think their attitude is understandable from the point of view if you look at how they're indoctrinated in what are effectively now Marxist universities. I mean, the ideology of it has just crept in over decades, slowly, catchy monkey, that kind of thing.
people don't even realize that their thinking is restricted and that they are actively restricting their own thinking. And it's tough, it's not easy to do. If you've been trained all the time to obey the authority figure, which is really all that education systems have now become, because you're going to take your place in society. And you're the guy in the class who wants to stand up and say, can I ask a question about that? No, you can't. You're going to upset everybody else. This is an implied threat, and it's also not true. How do you know you're going to? But that's the agreement that's now built up. Don't speak up. We'll all get into trouble. And it's really simple sort of stuff, and it occurs in classrooms and everywhere. And after sort of 20 years of behaving like that, people don't know that they don't know. And anybody that asks questions about these things is obviously a maniac or something like that. You can't talk about these things.
Completely true. Yes, that's completely true. How people describe, the amount of abuse, I and the other people, who work for me, get on sort of social media and everything. Is just amazing. There's a lot of people out there who can't believe it. And of course, according to what sort of political views you've got or what your sort of background is, it's just held as a complete religious faith. It's something they can't get out of their system. It's told they're told it's true, so it's true. And that's it. And there's a good word for that for somebody like it. And pistic.
Say that again. What word is that?
Pistic.
How's that spelled?
Pistic. Pistic.
Pistic. Okay.
And that is somebody who takes everything as truth. So they read the paper, that must be true. Read the paper, that must be true. And so on. But you only have to look about, say, a Second World War. Was everything in the papers true? No, it wasn't, was it? No. They said, so wartime it's that bad, but in peacetime, it's still the same sort of situation. Certain subjects they won't touch.
All history, particularly war history, is written by the victors. But the net has been amazing for this, or maybe not. I suppose you go, good grief, I wish I didn't know this stuff. But the fact is that if you lose your curiosity about things, there's a part of you that dies, and you're not as alive as you should be and could be and have been designed to be. I mean, it seems to me asking questions about things is something that you can do. And thinking for yourself is something that nobody can stop you doing. And they don't like their cattle, because that's, we're on a big tax farm. We're basically organized like that. All these, the increase in these regulations, we were just talking earlier on about King Pudgy Fingers saying, we're going to digital ID. Well, I didn't give you permission to do that. You're not my king. Go away, silly man. But unfortunately, the crowd will go along to get along, and they're going along to get along to go into the abyss because,
Well, your previous interviewee was talking about governments and everything like that. And what I thought he had some very good points there. But what I would say, what's happened is that we're now getting unrepresentative governments. They don't represent the population. They don't represent the bulk of the people. No. They've gone somewhere else. They're doing something else of their own back. Yeah. And a good example of this is, like you mentioned, ID cards. The ID cards wasn't part of the Labour Party manifesto.
No.
It's just something they just come up with. And it just so happens that the rest of Europe are doing the same thing at the same time. So who is actually deciding this sort of stuff? So somebody somewhere must have just...
Not you, I think. We're not involved, are we? Yeah. We're going to make some decisions that are going to affect your life in a major way, but we're going to dress it up that it's a really good thing for everybody, but it's not. Like when, we've mentioned here before, when they say, well, things are going to be better for all of us now, they don't mean us. We're not included. When they use the word we, they're just addressing themselves. That's who they mean. Us, the suckers out here, have to sort of take it. I mean, the thing as well about knowing this stuff, and I do think about this a lot, is, okay, so some stuff. Some stuff that's politically incorrect simply because of the political climate at the moment. But it's not incorrect in and of itself. It's purely to do with the agreement in society at the time that you're reading it. There was a time when translating the Bible into English, you got killed for it. In fact, Tyndale did,
Yeah, that's right. That is absolutely true.
Yeah, what he was doing is not fundamentally wrong or incorrect or dishonourable. In fact, it's the complete opposite of those things. It was right, it was truthful, and it was honourable, and he was doing a good thing. But it's not a good thing if you're in the power controlling business, because now the peasants can read this thing and they suddenly find out that the guy in the pulpit last week was talking through his backside. And then they start to give him questions, and he doesn't like that either, because he's undermining his authority in front of the congregation. And it's similar in all sorts of other human organizations. People cleave to power. Anything that comes along with a question mark on it that disturbs that, they act in a very hostile way toward it. And that's the reason. It's for personal self-interest and all those sorts of other things that human beings are pretty good at, unfortunately.
There is another reason that they could be doing this. It could be completely subversion by enemy countries. It could be that, I think communism was very much to do certain things to countries to soften them up, make them sort of weak and everything. That's a sort of stand thing. But the other thing is that it's the climate. The climate, as like you pointed out, is now of, you got the wrong views. You got the wrong views. We can't talk to you. We can't speak to you. We can't do anything with you. You're just off the pal, as they say.
It is. We a phrase I've got, Jeff, is we become the fart in other people's spacesuits. They go, oh, that's unpleasant.
Well, that's not a nice one. Yeah. Oh, that's a bit. No.
But it is true, because you're introducing people to something that's icky, from their point of view. I understand it absolutely why people react the way they do. I've got it. I think when you first sort of bump into this body of knowledge on this topic, and it goes for other topics of a similar sort of politically incorrect nature, and you introduce them into sort of group conversation, you can create a chill very quickly. If you don't know who's in your group, you just can. It's instant. I understand exactly why it happens, because those people, most people, don't have a sort of grounding context for why you're doing it. It's not to prove other people wrong. It's actually just nice is the wrong word. It's a sensible path of inquiry to the curious mind. And you go, that doesn't add up. Oh, you can't talk like that. No, but it doesn't add up. Look, no, I don't even want to look. And then you go, right, we've really got a problem, because we can't even put the information in front of someone without them reacting very badly because of the conditioning which they've had. And of course, what you're doing also, I think, is you are alerting them to the fact that they probably have been conditioned on some sort of subconscious level. And people don't like that, because they think they know how life works and all this kind of stuff. And you're introducing a topic which demonstrably proves that they don't. And once people have gained a bit of humility and go, you know what, I don't know everything. Cool. Now you can know a lot. But when you think you know a lot of stuff, there's no wriggle room left. You mentioned Eric, who was on in the first hour. He's still with us in the studio. Eric, are you there? Can you hear us talking? Would you like to chime in? Is there anything you'd like to say? Or have you disappeared?
Yes. No, I've disappeared.
Oh, good. Hi, welcome
I'm
back.
still here. Yes.
Jeff, Eric, Jeff, let me introduce you.
Hello, Jeff. Pleased to speak to you. Hello. Yes, it's very interesting, these taboo subjects, because my father, who was in the war, he was a reluctant conscript because he could see through the propaganda. And after the war, people kind of sent him to Coventry and poo-pooed him because he told a very different story to what the establishment wanted people to believe. And squaddies went along with what the propaganda said. And this is the problem. People go along with the propaganda because they don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. They just want to be part of the crowd. And, all this, jingoism, we went in, our chaps did this, our chaps did that, all that sort of rubbish. I'm pleased to see that's gone now. But my father, he was treated terribly after the war because he had a different viewpoint. And it wasn't political. He wasn't political at all about it. It's just that he was there. And I think this is a similar thing with what you're doing with the book. If you go against the agenda, then you've got problems. And,
that's a great phrase. The agenda. I like that. That's good, because there is agenda nowadays, which everybody's got to ascribe to. And that's the all-powerful state, and the state can do anything it likes. And we've got to kowtow to it. We've got to accept immigration, for example, by non-whites. We've got to accept that too, and if you don't like it, then you're a nasty sort of type of person, and it just goes on like this. I can't help thinking to myself, you look at TV and you see the number of police programs or detective programs. That seems to be quite amazing how that is. If it's somebody's fixation about sorting things out or solving a problem. Yet, the opposite is the case, and people don't want to solve problems. They just accept what somebody's told them.
Well,
for example, we got one of the books we got out, Healthcare in Auschwitz. It tells you about medical care, special treatment of registered inmates, and it's a 400-page sort of book. Tells you all about the healthcare there was at Auschwitz and what sort of things prisoners could do, because you can't help reading any of these survivor testimonies without somebody saying, "Oh, I got typhus when I was there, and they nursed me back to health." You think to yourself, well, why would they do that? Why would they bother? But they did. They did this to Jewish prisoners, and you can confirm that by looking at another one of the volumes, 34. And this one sort of says about the 7 German officers who were executed for killing the Poles at Katyn massacre. And it tells you all the garrison and headquarters orders of the Auschwitz concentration camp. And Jewish prisoners were in a hospital sometimes for months. And yet you would have think, nobody would have set that as being a fact. That's the actual orders. So how can you sort of demonstrate to somebody who's got the idea that implanted in them to say, well, you're absolutely wrong? And that's a very, very difficult thing to do. People don't like being sort of I've been brought up with this sort of information, but other things that they're not brought up. Nobody knows how many British soldiers died in the Second World War. People don't learn about it. This is what I mean. I think we are being sidelined. We're now becoming somebody else that's in the queue of attention.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Our culture, our tribal connectivity is all being it's like there's a solvent gone in to melt the glue that binds us together. And we have been studied thoroughly. And of course, modern psychological and media techniques are very effective. And they're a combination of things. Like I was saying, that not only the lies that they tell, and they big those up big time. There's always a drama. There'll be another one next week. So last week it was the council elections, and this week it's everybody talking about it, and next week it'll be something else. And when you listen to politicians talk, I'm surprised they don't have a moment where they wake up and go, "This is a waste of my life," because it is actually. Yeah. It really is. And you think, if you haven't had that realization, I can't really trust you. Anybody that smart enough to be a good politician doesn't go into politics. They've got to be sort of slightly stupid about it, because they're willing to compromise on all of these sorts of areas that are linked to this area. I don't mean in terms of the topic, but I mean the technique of suppressing people's aliveness. That's what this is about, and distracting them. I say that we live in a great distractathon, a marathon distraction, and it is. The current phrase is the attention economy. Well, it's always been the attention economy, and they're brilliant at getting a hold of it and manipulating it by emphasizing the things they want emphasized, particularly anything that improves or increases, I should say, improves the wrong word, increases your fear and anxiety. So, you could say modern living is a constant sort of circuit of, fight or flight. It's like fight or flight with everything. It is. This is happening. Oh, I've got to worry about that in this other part of the world. I remember my dad when I was younger, when the news started to become more and more international based, and they were reporting on, and he would say, "Why isn't there any news about us? It's never about what's going on here. It's always about other people in other parts of the world." And we've been trained to think that somehow it's our obligation to sort everybody else's problems out. Well, in a way, it kind of is, because unfortunately our political class, which is not ours, we don't want it, right, is directly responsible for much of this mayhem that's taking place out there. And then, the peasant has to pick up the tab I mean, there's nothing new with that, but it's like, you did it all. It's because you didn't work hard enough that the economy's in a bad way. No, it ain't, mate. It's because you don't even understand economics. You don't understand banking. You don't understand much, But these are the sorts of people that we've got. I'm just going back to what Plato said. The problem with politics is even if you don't get involved, you end up being governed by those that do, and they're generally not the best of us. They're not now. They're not even anywhere near it, So it's shocking that they've got so much power and influence and so little qualifications to actually hold it,
That's excellent. You're quoting Greek philosophy because we could learn so much from that. Rhetoric, arguments, logic, and everything. And,
it should be taught in school, shouldn't it? Shouldn't it be taught in school?
Well, yeah.
You get to 11 or 12, you go, right, we're doing rhetoric and argument. We're doing all of this sort of structured stuff. You're going to learn a lot of things. We've been doing it for the next 5 years. So you come out at 16, a generation that went through something like that, they won't be controllable. Of course, those people will go into businesses and take that culture with them. And then you're going to have the restoration of intelligent people. Because if the nation's dying, it's really because the people are dying inside. Spiritually and intellectually, they're suffering, aren't they? That's what they're doing.
Well, one of the other things is that I find quite interesting is that there's a lot of talk about conspiracy theory and everything like that. So if you generated a sort of completely fake Holocaust, which you can do, another example would be the Americans keep talking about 40,000 people killed in Iran by the government. And that sort of crept up from 30,000 and now it's 40,000 and so forth like this. All this sort of stuff. And you think to yourself, well, we don't actually know anything about that, do we? The government doesn't hardly know anything about Iran. It doesn't care about Iran. The international order, which was supposed to be brought into being after 1945, that's taken a complete tumble because Trump just decides to attack people when he wants to. So what is the purpose of all these governments? They, as you said, there seems to be a disconnect between the people and the government. What you were saying earlier reminded me of, there used to be this group called the Angry Brigade some time ago, and they believed that history or life was like a spectacle. It's like going to a cinema and you just see films run through at a very fast rate, and you can only remember certain bits of it which stuck out. Yeah, and that's very much the case. Let me give you an example of what I mean here. Take the Holocaust, right? One of the big features was gas chambers. Yeah. All the details about Adolf Hitler, they got large amount, all his war directives, all his speeches, all his documents between his subordinates, I think. No mention of gas chambers. And then you got Hermann Goering, he's the second man of the right. No mention of gas chambers. Then you got Alfred Rosenberg, Minister of the East. No mention of gas chambers, not even in his diary. And you got Joseph Goebbels, huge diary found on microfiche in the Moscow archives.
Yeah, by David
No
Irving.
mention of gas. Yeah, no mention of gas chambers. And you keep going down, and there's absolutely no mention of it. So nobody's mentioning something. And this is one of the most important things, apparently, which happened in the Second World War. During the Second World War, and yet there's no mention of it.
I know. Well, you've got those. Haven't you got the memoirs of? There's De Gaulle, Churchill, and is it Roosevelt or Eisenhower? They all wrote each of them wrote a massive book about it, and it's something like 3,000 pages if you put them all together. There's not one line in there about any of it. These are the people who apparently saw everything coming across their desk and knew what was going on. And it didn't exist because it isn't something that they invented at that time. That's my only conclusion. Otherwise, it'd be just crystal clear. I'm reasonably sure that the Battle of Waterloo took place. I'm pretty sure about it, right? And somebody might want to say it didn't. I go, okay, what have you got? And it depends what they provide you, and whether you actually want to spend your time on that. I'm sort of quite concrete on that one. I think it did, right? And I think World War II took place. But you can see a situation with this manipulation of perception, which is what it's about. In a couple of 100 years, the actual the real counter story, because it is a currently counter story, about the conflict from 1914 to 1945, because it was just one big one organised for the restructuring of the West and making it weak for the advance of globalism, which used to go under the name of communism. It won't be told at all. And it's like if you're not aware of a thing, it's not that you're ignorant, it's that you're, I think the word's nescient. You literally don't know that topic exists. And it's just a surprise to you. You go, where did this come from? Well, it came from these books. Oh, they must be. And then people get into the whole thing of disproving your sources, and it's exhausting. It really is. I mean, I think, you can tell, what's the thing? You can tell the tree by the fruit that it bears. I mullered that one, but you get the idea. And you just have to look around you at the state of society. I mean, we obviously lost World War II. More and more people are saying this. But we obviously, what is it that we're supposed to have won? A more competent government situation. I think, all the thing in the 60s and the 70s, all that sort of, let's call it a higher period of greater purchasing power for people, which I assume it was, or more goods and services. That was almost like a sort of another distraction to soften us up. Not that I'm arguing for a pointlessly hard life. I'm not arguing for that at all. I think that's really stupid. We created a lot of conveniences for us for good reason, and it's changed things, I think, in many ways for the better, and in some ways very, very badly wrong, because we're a people without sort of a spiritual rudder. We've become one, and isn't that what communism introduces? It makes people, they don't want you, they don't want you paying attention to God or even pondering on it, because you're supposed to put all of that energy into obeying the Politburo. We are the great leaders. Look at my picture up here on this thing. It's 50 foot tall. I'm obviously the guy in charge. You're obviously a nutcase, mate. You're a simpleton.
That's what I found. I'll post them on Facebook with sometimes, and I normally try to give some explanation of that. Yeah. But the amount of propaganda on Facebook, which shows you here's a fence at Auschwitz. And it's got some weird music, and then here's the barrack block at Auschwitz, and there's more weird music, and there's stacks and stacks of it. And this is what people have to remember, is that Israel, I think, has spent nearly £700 million on propaganda. Mm-hmm. It's just this year, and it's increasing year by year. And they're getting a very bad sort of press at the moment with their situation in Gaza and in Lebanon and the attack on Iran. And people might get the idea of them bombing everything. They keep bombing people. Yeah. And, they wouldn't be wrong. But they need to sort of correct that. They need to correct that. And this is what's happened from the Second World War. An enormous propaganda campaign. And what it is, it's directed at National Socialism, which contains a racial element. They don't want to see racially sort of racial organisations and societies based on race no more. They don't want to see that. Mm-hmm. They're dead against that. And you get people like we've been talking about Labour Party people and Liberals and that, and they're scared stiff of it. They're just like absolutely terrified. They just become virtual sort of Pavlov's dogs, don't they? They can't talk about it in a rational viewpoint because no rationality is allowed. So all I get on the Facebook as a response is normally just abuse. That's all we get. They can't say anything, or they can't respond to it.
Yeah, so I know. I mean, I have seen some threads on X, which used to be called Twitter, when they sort of decensored the things or opened it up a bit from about maybe 18 months, 2 years ago, something like that. Some have been tremendous. There are actually a lot of people out there that are on this wavelength, and that have generally you find that we're not revisionists. I mean, I don't like the word because it sounds as though you're trying to shift something. We're just trying to get to the bottom of a situation, and the people that are doing that communicate in a much more even-handed and calm way. The other side, going back to what Richard Williamson said, the Bishop Williamson, is you've just got this sort of colossal amount of emotion on the other side, and it's that puts people off. And it's also something to bear in mind that people actually buy on emotion. They don't buy on facts. They sort of absorb things on the basis of the feelings it gives them, and they reject things on the basis of the feelings it gives them. And so the logical bit never comes in. I mean, I suppose I'm joshing a bit, but I thought a book that might be really interesting if anybody could write it would be Sherlock Holmes Goes to Nuremberg. That would be
all right.
In other words,
Well,
Holmes and Watson,
like
it needs to be turned into a film, and Holmes starts to go through the documents with Holmes's mind, which misses nothing. And it might be a breeze to write. I mean, you'd never get the film made, but the mere fact that I was thinking, there's so many films that could be made and will never be made, but maybe we just need to do the promos for them, because that's enough actually to get people thinking about stuff. It really is. You go, what about this as an idea? You can't do that. Well, we'll just put the promo out. We'll do a trailer for it. That's it. Film never gets made, but the trailer itself would actually stimulate an awful lot of thinking. You have to have some scenes of Holmes going, good grief, Watson, this isn't true, and all this kind of stuff.
Well, that's amazing you said that, Paul, because there is such a book, Gas Chamber of Sherlock
There is
Holmes,
actually, I remember it now, Sherlock Holmes and the Gas Chambers or something like that. Is that right? Something like that. There is one, isn't there?
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but there certainly is a book like that, or an essay.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's really quite interesting to read sort of like Robert Forreston, who's a French professor. Yeah. And he's done an enormous amount of work in France. Sadly, he's died now, but he was a very brilliant little person.
Yeah, he was. Jeff, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're coming to the end of our time here on WBN, and I've got to sort of wrap up. I'd love to get you back on within a month or so, something like that, and we can carry this on. I think it's been... for me, it's good to return to this topic. I've been away from it intentionally and consciously for the past couple of years. It's never left my mind. And like we were saying earlier, the challenge is trying to find a way to transmit it to a wider audience that could read it without jumping out of the room or something. It's tricky, but it's been great having you on it. Where's your website for people that want to know about your book, where they can go and get the book? Where do they go?
It's www.
Yeah.
.armreg.
Yeah.
.co.uk.
ArmReg
is spelled A-L.
Yeah. I'll let you say it.
www.armreg.co.uk.
Jeff?
That's the company name. It's ArmReg. Yeah.
ArmReg.co.uk.
It's fascinating talking to you, Paul, because you raised a lot of subjects which, and you mentioned it yourself, do you feel like your creativity is gone?
We do, absolutely. I got to wrap up, Jeff, because we've got to say goodbye to WBN. Look, brilliant. We can talk tomorrow or something off air. That'd be great. That's Jeff Roberts, everybody, from armreg.co.uk. We're going to say goodbye to WBN right now, but we're carrying on fftradio.com and on YouTube and Rumble if you want to listen to the next hour. Coming up, Etta Vogt is going to be with us. We're going to run a little brief 30-second ad for an event here in England and a nice cheery song, and then we'll be back on the other side of this, and we'll see you on WBN next week.
Hey guys, all you truth seekers out there, the Weekend Truth Festival is back for its third year on the 17th to the 20th of July at the beautiful Leigh Farm, Chirk Airfield. We've got some incredible speakers, fantastic stalls and healing workshops and bags of fun for the children. Come and join the tribe. Tickets are available now. Head over to www.weekendtruthfestival.co.uk. We can't wait to see you there.
Use my love and affection, and all I can get is rejection. You got me losing my sense of direction, and I'm suffering from your neglection. That's why a man, girl, needs his loving all the time. That's why a man, girl, needs his loving all the time. his loving all the time. Said if I don't get my loving, I don't get my loving, it's really gonna blow my mind. You expect me to be so true, but your heart just won't come. But I know you're the same old way, and I can't understand the games you play. That's why a man, girl, needs his loving all the time. That's why a man, girl, needs his loving all the time. 'Cause if I don't get my loving, I don't get my loving, it's really gonna blow my mind.
Anson Funderburg and the Rockets. I'll spell that for you. First name Anson, A-N-S-O-N, and Funderburg, F-U-N-D-E-R-B-U-R-G-H. Anson Funderburg and the Rockets. And anyway, welcome to Hour 3, and our guest, all the way from sunny Chicago, is Etta Vogt. Hi, Etta. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure.
No, it's great to have you. I just thought we'd put some jolly music on there to get us all in the mood, because we've been we had a very serious hour just then with Jeff. It was fantastic actually going through from ArmReg. I don't know if you caught any of it, but it's kind of in your bailiwick, is that kind of field of study, isn't it?
Yes, so very informative. I was listening, and it's always good to have that big band music in the interlude to lift the spirits,
to cheer us up,
right? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we need to do that.
There's so much information. Like he was saying, I am signed up onto that website, and I just haven't had time to really go through it, but there's tons of information there, really great information. So I intend to get back onto it and maybe order some books and, continue on with my studies, because there's always something to learn.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Do you have a copy of his encyclopedia, or the encyclopedia that he's involved with? Are you aware of it?
No, I'm aware of it, but I don't have it yet. And it's
very heavy.
My next purchase.
It's very heavy.
Yeah,
it'll give you a good workout just picking it up. It really is. It's an absolute lump. It's a lump of a book. I haven't weighed it, but now that I'm thinking about it, after the show, I might go off and see just how much it weighs. Yeah, it's an absolute lump of a book. It's brilliantly designed and put together, so it's very useful for those of you that are into that sort of thing. I'm just going to big him up again. That was Jeff, and that's armreg.co.uk. So for those of you who have a mind for that, and I suspect many of you do, you'll have to save up a bit though. It's about 80 quid. So, but it's a real big thing. Keep you busy for a few years, without a doubt.
Well, it's a piece of history, right? Well documented history, I'm sure. His version is, and it's good. It's great to have that around. Have people who took the time to really investigate and document all of the atrocities that were committed by the communists, and what the Germans were really trying to do. And we could see that directly reflected in today's time with Gaza and what's happening over here, over there. Everything that they've done to everyone in the world, we can now, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's no longer conspiracy theory. So, so that part of the truth, I'm glad it's come out. Most of the normies out there are well aware of, I'd say probably 80% of what's going on in the past and current day. They're aware of it, and people are very upset.
Yeah,
I think they're ready to do something about it.
Yeah, I think so. Do you see do you see many sort of little reports or posts or whatever saying that the younger generation are much more up to speed on it because they've had access to the internet? Do you see things like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially because of the TikTok, and they watched the genocide of, these crazy Israelis and what they do to people, they're just, it's just inhumane. There's no way that you could have a soul and commit these types of atrocities with no regret or remorse. In fact, they look bewildered when we normal people recoil and find their behavior so abhorrent. They're like, well, what's wrong with that? And it's shocking. And I'm glad that the average person out there, American and otherwise, are finally seeing what these people are capable of, because they're true psychopaths. You cannot have, they're demons. It's demonic at this point.
Yeah. It is. It's off the charts. And yet the continual bombardment of it gets people acclimatized to it, and it drops down the sort of scale of reactiveness, doesn't it? People were reacting in the correct way, but when you're just pummeled with this stuff all the time, you go, oh, well, that's just the way it is, and all that kind of stuff. But right. I think it's the fact, like Jeff was saying, that they play such a strong role in many of the power centers of nations of the so-called West. Which they obviously do, and that's why it's coming home to roost, as it were, in the home nations. The nations of the West are actually seeing it now more clearly. They've definitely got a giddy up going on. There's something. The speed and tempo of all the sort of actions that they're taking is it seems to be increasing all the time. And as we mentioned here, our lovely king that we all adore. Has decided that we are going to have facial recognition ID and all this kind of stuff, which is a nice thing for him to decide. So, we're faced with all these challenges to get organized, if we can, to make sure that these things do not occur. But even, it's not easy. It's not easy. But so we need something spectacular or sort of miraculous to occur, and I do believe that there's a possibility that something like that can, because there's definitely something bubbling underneath all the foundations, and I think, like, I've got two sons, they're younger, they're kind of up to speed. Well, they would be, having hung around me. It's not as if that this is a keen area of interest to them, I get that, but they've got a more general view of it. I certainly didn't have a view like that when I was in my 20s, because I'd just been exposed to newspapers and films, and that's all I knew at that time. It was only in my 30s when I began to sort of go, hang on just a minute. It took a little bit of a while, and you kind of figure that if you knew this stuff earlier on in life, we could have covered a lot more ground. But still, I'm glad of the ground that has been covered, and there have been some amazing heroic figures in this sort of field, that are looking to just basically say, well, I've looked at these reports and that doesn't add up. You can't say that. But, well, look at the report. Exactly. No, I won't even read it. If it contradicts my view. And you shouldn't have that view. It's not really a view. It's just a sort of situation that comes about. Are you able to assess information? And the truth is, most of us are not very good at doing that. Present company excluded, and all the glorious listeners on YouTube and Rumble and on FFT radio. The radio is doing really well tonight, actually. We're getting quite a good audience on the radio, so this all bodes well for the future. And, Anyway, how are things in Chicago? How are things? Anything exciting and wonderful happening in Chicago? What's going on?
Well, I suppose we're going to see, because speaking of the data centers, but I do have a white pill. There's two things. Before I get back into the darkness of the real world.
You don't have to. You can go wherever you want. I don't mind. White pill's nice. It's good every now and again. Even I need a little bit of respite from it all,
Right, let's have some more tea, and what do you guys call it, biscuits? Or
there you go. This is how we hold it all together. Just put the kettle on. Put it on right now. Yeah,
exactly. But Francesca Albanese, who I believe was one of the main characters, if you will, heroines, who was brave enough to bring all of the atrocities to the UN and document them and go on film. I mean, she has been met with such horrible backlash, sanctions, and all kinds of stuff. Like, she wasn't able, they froze her bank accounts. And I mean, they've done literally everything they could to destroy this woman. And she won a huge court battle. The U.S. Supreme Court suspends the sanctions against Francesca Albanese. So I want to give a round of applause to her. It's well deserved. If it wasn't
Where's
for
she
people
from?
like her,
I know nothing about her, to be quite honest. So I'm sorry for being so ignorant of it. But what's the situation? Who is she? Where's she come from? And what's her role? Sort of. I don't know anything about her.
Well, the basic thing is that she's a rights activist for the Palestinians, and she helped to document all of these horrific abuses done to the Palestinians by the IDF and Israelis. The sexual violence, the torture, all of this, along with a few other physicians, some of which who were arrested, and one of them was raped to death. I mean, it's just horrible. But just the clips, the short clips I've seen, I just was like, oh my God. And I can't even imagine the detail that they have, but still, this is all logged in at the UN. And now I truly understand why Trump and Netanyahu and everybody wanted to get this board of peace going, because their plan is to dismantle the UN. They're going to replace it with something else. So, and of course, they have a warrant out for Netanyahu's war crimes. So that's still in limbo. But I don't know if she's from Italy or if she's actually Palestinian, but her last name is Albanese. So I'm going to assume she's some kind of, Mediterranean heritage. Yeah. But yeah, she and a few other activists and doctors, they all went on the record. They were getting bodies back from the IDF, and they were missing organs. I mean, you name it, it's been cataloged and documented, as including the rape with dogs, and that's been blowing up. All of the pro-Israeli newspapers and talking heads have all at the same time. My entire timeline on X was nothing but, these are lies. What about October 7th? And I'm like, this is so disgusting. Because and then they fought back with additional information. I can't remember the name of the organization, but they have everything down. They've got all the receipts about how October 7th and what they claimed with 40 babies beheaded and all this, that was all garbage. It was all lies, just like the Holocaust, right? And in fact, some of the crazy claims from the Holocaust, one of which is dog rape. Okay, that's been debunked, that the Germans never did that. However, here we have evidence that, in fact, the Jewish Israelis, they're the ones who were committing that. So it just goes to show, just how deviant they are. Just I struggle to
that seems like that's
with
like
words to describe it.
No, it's yeah. Got any more white pill stuff?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
No. I was thinking. I mean, how are you supposed to react to stuff like this? You just go, "What?" Isn't that another example? Though it seems like me a pretty good example of projection, where you're projecting onto your enemy the very crimes that you commit. You say, "Oh, they did all this."
Yes.
Well,
right.
I mean, this is a repeated pattern. Psychologically, it's very effective. It throws people right off because our assumption, obviously wrongly, I guess, in retrospect, is we think we're dealing with people that are going to communicate honorably, like we seek to do. I assume. Of course, we've got many people from our own tribe who are completely bent out of whack. It's not just that. You get sort of devious people across the earth. But you're seeking to not be one of those, because we know that that's not going to lead anywhere except down into the pit, and we're not particularly keen to go there. We're not designed to go into the pit. That's what we're avoiding, or basically we're rejecting it completely. It's complete madness. But there were terrible things about the way that all these sorts of abuses, when people get hold of prisoners of war and stuff, and you think, and this is the madness of it. I suppose, to some degree, people feel that they've got carte blanche to behave in the most disgusting way, and do. You go, what are you doing?
Yeah, they actually do it, right? Yeah. And we have to remember, there's this movie called Nefarious. I just saw it a few days ago. I highly recommend it. Change your VPN to the United States if you can't access it, and it's really, really good. The guy who plays the demon he's in prison, so it's not like The Exorcist where he changes, but psychologically, it's a perfect reflection as to what's going on here in modern day times. And the actor was so good at it. Like, the time flew by. It was maybe a little bit over an hour. Very, very, very good. Very gripping. Very just, I can't say enough good things about it. But we have to remember what we're dealing with, not who, but what. And what that is these psychopaths, this is where they thrive. They thrive in chaos. They thrive in, this is a true sadist. This is true sadism. They need that to feed themselves. Otherwise, they won't feel alive. That's why they create so much chaos and craziness, and they'll even argue things that they know everybody knows is true, but they'll just do it anyway because it aggravates you. This is the epitome of narcissism, and I think what Machiavelli was writing about in his book, The Prince, right? So I try to remind myself of this, because sometimes I just get so frustrated. I'm like, oh my God. So, you got to take your little mental health break, breathe and whatnot, go outside, touch grass, things like that. And then you could come back and just remember what it is we're dealing with, because it truly is principalities that we're dealing with. It's so foreign to us that most people to look at it too long will drive you crazy. So yeah, you have to have that white pill. And I do have another white pill. Right. I went to the store a couple times during the week, and I spoke with 4 complete strangers, complete normies, at the store, gas station, whatever. And I opened the conversation up with these gas prices, right? So of course, then I went on with that, because they were like, yeah, I know, right? And they're upset. They, like I was saying, 80% of the information that we know here, they are in agreement with, and they're aware. So that's a great thing. These atrocities, like you're saying, we don't want people to become numb to it or have it normalized, because it's not. But to expose it, we have to walk that fine line to make sure. But it's something that with normal people, that these are things that will never, I don't think, sit right with people, especially then. Getting back to the data centers, I don't know about you guys where you're at, but out here, there's popping up everywhere. There's like this huge push. It's almost feels like a rush, because people are waking up at such a fast rate. Everybody's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? There's, I think, 2 states where they're practicing the eminent domain, just taking people's property. There's another state, I think Lake Tahoe, they're letting people know by the end of 2027, they'll no longer be servicing their electric needs or electricity needs. It's all going to be funneled to the data centers. Everybody's just terribly upset. And this is not just going on in one isolated area. And I think this is a good thing, though. Because if it was just one small area, then everybody else could just ignore it, right? Yeah. But because everyone across the United States is being affected by this at the same time, you're seeing a real big pushback. I mean, there's some law firms that are going on now. Some websites have popped up to fight these data centers. So we really need to, the time is now. And if people don't start acting now, it's over. So, network with people in your community and things like that.
No, I completely agree. I think you're absolutely right. One of the things, are you familiar with a lady called Catherine Austin Fitz? Do you know of her? She's from your neck of the woods.
Yes.
One of the things that we've been talking about recently, and we're not the only people to talk about it, of course, because these things swim around in circles, but is the demonic possession of our leaders and the idea of this spiritual warfare. And now this is quite a long clip. It's 8 minutes, but I'd like to play it actually, because it's pretty interesting, and it's from her. Somebody posted it into my Telegram group the other week. I think it was Helen. So shout out, Helen. Thank you very much for this. It comes from a group called History, but it's really it's a really interesting little exchange. So it runs for about 8 minutes. So this will take us to the bottom of the bottom of this hour. But just listen to what she has to say. And if you don't know who she is, she's sharp as a tack. She used to occupy a very high position. Was it housing that she was in charge of? She understands the banking situation backwards. And she says some really particularly good things in this. So here we go. This is Catherine Austin Fitts for about 8 minutes. So it's a long clip. Here we go.
Farrell and I did a great 2-hour interview called Who is Mr. Global? Mm-hmm. And we went through every different hypotheses.
What do you mean? Can you define Mr. Global?
It's the committee that runs the world. So there's a committee at the top that makes all the big decisions. And my nickname for it is Mr. Global. So the question is, who is Mr. Global and why is Mr. Global doing what he's doing? Because when I look at a situation, I like to put myself in somebody else's shoes. Like if I was Danny and I was doing this, what would it look like from my point of view? And so I want to put myself in why is Mr. Global doing this? What's Mr. Global's point of view? So anyway, Joseph and I went through and did Who is Mr. Global and why is he doing what he's doing? So we went through all the theories, but some of my favorite comments on the internet is they'll say, well, she worked at the White House and she knows, so she's not telling us. It's like, no, everybody at the White House is not sure.
Who's your best guess of who Mr. Global is?
I think you have intergenerational pools of capital, and right now they are over influenced by occult. So I think you have interdimensional intelligence, which is operating demonic intelligence.
Interdimensional demonic intelligence.
Yeah. Yep. So I think this thing about good and evil is real. And I can't find it anymore. I found it once. There were in the 1930s, a British physicist got up and said, we are being manipulated but from other dimensions by intelligent beings from other dimensions. So I think, if you study Christianity and you read the Bible, you're dealing with both divine intelligence and demonic intelligence. And I think too much of the leadership has gotten deeply involved in the occult and demonic kinds of intelligence.
Wow.
So I just read a book and I have no idea. So I've tried to find every theory to explain the paranormal stuff. So I'm not telling you this is true, but I just finished reading a book called Final Event by Nick Redfern. I don't know if you've ever read it. Mm-mm. And he describes it's a exploration of a group of military intelligence in the United States called the Collins Elite.
Oh yeah, I've heard about the Collins Elite. Yeah.
And they came to believe that the ET phenomena was a demonic phenomena. It was not people from another planet. It was demonic intelligence.
It was biblical stuff.
Right. And one of the things he discovered was that, or the Collins Elite apparently discovered, is in many sort of ET abduction events, if you called on Jesus Christ, it would stop.
What?
Yeah. That's what he reported. And he strikes me, I don't know anything about him, but it struck me as someone who was trying to do a faithful job of simply reporting what they found.
There's a lot of folks in the intelligence community that publicly state how they believe that the whole UFO phenomena is like this biblical thing. How it's angels and demons and these things can be angelic entities and, like literal, like ground, like legitimate people in the intelligence community, whether they're still active or retired or whatever, that have been on podcasts that state they believe this.
So I am sure that all of that stuff is happening. So I think we are dealing with demonic and angelic forces in our world, and that's interdimensional intelligence. So the Bible calls it, demons and angels. Other people call it fifth dimension or whatever, but I think we're absolutely, and I will tell you what I think is the most important thing to understand about the universe. So write this down. This is my favorite, my favorite new book is A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple.
Oh, yeah.
99% of the material in the universe is plasma. Our universe is made up of plasma. And I used to hear that David Bohm said this, and other physicists as well, but Temple's really documented and nailed it. And I'm sure he's right. Plasma is alive and it's intelligent. And that means life is alive and intelligent.
Plasma or dark matter?
Plasma.
Plasma.
But, let me make it simple. The universe is alive and intelligent.
Sure.
And we share intelligence with all life. So in the Lord of the Rings, when the trees show up to help, that's real.
Right.
So life is alive. And the notion that you can take digital technology and control it centrally, once you understand that, is so ridiculous. Only a demonic intelligence would come up with that plan.
Huh.
Right?
Have you noticed this recent phenomena and there's been articles written about it, of essentially a lot of big shots in Silicon Valley are mapping Christianity now onto everything that's going on in Silicon Valley. There's a new church in Silicon Valley that everyone's going to. Peter Thiel and the head of this company called Y Combinator are, Peter Thiel is a famous billionaire gay Christian, and the guy from Y Combinator is a big devout Christian, and they're holding these big conferences, and all these folks in Silicon Valley seem to be now converting to Christianity, going to church, and it's just really interesting to me, because Silicon Valley is historically known for being like anti-religion, right? Like it's not been a typical religious part of the world in history. These people are, a lot of people developing tech and developing, these social media platforms, transhumanism, and
I know nothing about it.
Yeah. There's been a lot of articles. There was an article in the New York Times that came out, I think the New Yorker. And it's.
I think that's about 5 minutes of it, and the rest of it goes into that Christianity thing. But I thought what she said at the beginning there, and you sparked me off with that, Etta, because of the talk of the behavior with the dogs, because it's demonic, isn't it? Isn't it?
It
demonic?
is, absolutely. And to add on to that, what is demonic is they have created. There's a company called Cortical Labs, and they've created synthetic biological intelligence, and they call this thing an organoid, and they take neurons from human brains, and they have successfully grafted it onto computer chips. And they actually have to feed it because it's a living thing. It's sentient, meaning it responds to positive and negative reinforcement, or reward and punishment. This thing has learned how to play Pong, that arcade game Pong. Also, Doom, the arcade game Doom, and that's a military game. So I know we're going into the break, but there's more I can add on to this.
We don't have a break here. We're just at the bottom of the hour. We're break free on this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
Perfect.
Your RBN training is kicking in. It's fine. We don't have a bottom of the hour break just yet. Everybody's loathing it if I do it, but we might start putting in little 1 minute spots and stuff at some point just to jazz it up a bit. But yeah, no, you're free.
Right.
Please carry on. Yeah, no.
Okay, awesome. All right, perfect. So there's maybe 2, maybe 3 companies around the world that has started this, right? So they were having this. It's a model. So they have this pink goo. Which acts like cerebral spinal fluid, and it's an operating system that feeds these neurons. So they make sure that they take neurons from the prefrontal lobe and the memory part of the brain and all this stuff, and they're putting it together. And I'm like, okay, so if they wanted to, now remember the term quantum computing from about 20 years ago, they started talking about this. So the reason why they're wanting to switch over to, and supposedly this is new technology, but we all know that they're usually 30 to 50 years in advance. So this technology we're seeing right now, coincidentally, is what? 20 years old, probably, is right around the time we started hearing about the quantum computing, correct? So I could just imagine what they have now. So anyway, they have this thing that feeds it cerebral spinal fluid. If it gets the answer correct, it gets fed this noise or stimulated with this noise that is predictable, right? So maybe it's a soothing sound or I don't know what. Then if it gets it wrong, they feed it white noise, and the neuron doesn't like it because I guess human brains like predictability. And I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
sounds it to me. I think I've seen something about it, but not to the degree of detail that you're providing, which is fantastic. Yeah, please carry on.
Yeah. Yes. And so there was another clip where there was a robot that was answering questions. I can't remember if it was Teal or it was one of those guys. And the robot paused and said it didn't want to answer it because it was anxious.
An anxious robot.
An anxious, yes, which means it has starting to develop emotions. Okay. Then there was another clip that I had seen just recently that talked about how the AI that they were working with on the sly, went and developed other things. I don't know exactly what it was, but the point being is that it wasn't supposed to have been able to do this on the sly behind the programmer's back, but it did, and it found a way around
on the sly.
Its programming.
It's got cunning, has it already?
Yes, it's
Good
yes,
gravy.
yep. So I'm like, oh my God, this is so. When we're talking about dimensions, then they're talking basically. They want to create basically a hologram from like Star Trek: The Next Generation, okay, or that computer from 2001: A Space Odyssey, or where you have, or the Matrix, you have this digital reality, so to speak,
right.
And they're afraid
all going to turn out great. This, isn't it? It's all going to turn out great, Etta. What could possibly go wrong?
Exactly. I know this guy that I think it was yesterday, I just came across, it's a brand new clip that he's kind of blowing the whistle saying, this thing has gotten out of our control. And I'm like, oh, that's just effing great. That's just great. Right.
Yeah.
So
fab. Thanks, lads. Yeah, great.
Yeah,
that's what you've been up to, is it?
Right.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder if all these machines are actually these neurons are from like these crazy psychopaths like Rockefeller, all of them. I would imagine so.
This is not a white pill, Etta. This is not a white.
I know.
This is not.
I said I only had two. We already gone through them, but it's important to know.
You've gone through them already. Good grief.
I know. I know,
boy.
But yeah, it's gonna be Terminator. So yeah, group up and hang on for the ride.
Oh well.
So
I've seen the movie, and in the end, we win. It's just hell on the way. That's all.
That's
the journey's
right.
really bad. It's not good. Good grief.
Yep.
I'll tell you, as you were talking about that, I mean, them interfering with these things, whenever I hear stuff similar to this, this sort of technology on steroids type stuff, when they're going, the individuals that do it, I mean, are they aliens? What kind of mentality would spend its time doing things like that? What's the bloody point? Well, there's obviously some point to it. It's the subduing of the herd, or a better way to control us, or whatever their worldview is, something which we cannot change. You can't change their worldview or their hell view, which is what it obviously sounds like to most of us. But I'm reminded of, I mentioned it a few months ago, Edgar Casey, not Edgar Casey, Madame Blavatsky. You know, have heard of her, right? And of course, she gets a bad press. But again, she gets a bad press from people that have not read it all. I haven't read all of her stuff, but I find it quite. I'm open to having a look at anything, to be quite honest, because I just think I am a work in progress. That's how I tend to view it. Go, oh yeah, I was wrong about that for a bit, and we'll get rid of that, and we'll consume this. There was an incident in her life when I think it was the early 1890s, so about 4 or 5 years before she passed. I think she died sometime, and she was in New York, which is where she did much of her latter work. And one of the entities that she spoke, I'm just using that word, she maybe doesn't use it, but one of the spiritual guides that she spoke to was present with her, and they were looking down into the street. And he said, look down there and look at the human beings. And so she did, and she could see a light in most of them. right? Like the spark of life. But there was some moving around that there was no light in, and she observed and commented on it. And her guide said, yes, they basically don't have a soul, or whatever the description is. You know, the soul's a big discussion anyway, because I basically don't think it's in the body. I think it's elsewhere. But it's, you know, there's all these sorts of transmissions of intelligence taking place all over the place that, you know, that we're not fully sensitive to. And what he said was that they were basically like, I guess today the term would be clones, soulless clones. And they go around and they just basically mimic life in many ways, but they're not there. And he said the root of it had come from Atlantis, when they'd got technologically too big for their boots, which is apparently the reason why, you know, we are told in the stories, you know, that this is what brought upon them their ruin, was that they were, you know, seeking to be God, I suppose would be the phrase, or something like that, and mucking about with the fundamentals of life to such a degree that they had to be taken out. But they wanted a sort of like, they wanted a lot of slaves, so they built them, but they didn't have souls. And he said those people through the generations have managed to sort of carry on. You know, there's a percentage of them. They're not the majority, but there was certainly a substantial minority. And after she'd published this, in this book I was reading, she got a letter from a woman in the Midwest or something who wrote to her and said, my husband is just like this. It was quite, the letter from her was actually one of the most compelling parts of the account. He's not behind his eyes. It's been like this all the time.
Right.
He's not here with me ever. There's something not right with him. And I think that same line of sort of relentless scientific inquiry, which is a terrible way to describe it, because it's definitely something else. I mean, maybe they inhabit top scientists' spirits, you know, and they are inhabited by demons. I mean, that's basically what Catherine Austin Fetts was saying. They've got far too close to that side of things. And this is not a new story, is it? I mean, if you've studied things, you know, if you look at Babylon and all these ancient things, something goes badly wrong in these places always. And we've been cursed with the sort of the results of what they got up to, like fractional reserve banking and lending and all of these other sort of control mechanisms, which people just, you know, live. It's like going from the very, very small and the pragmatic day-to-day living right through to, you know, going on a journey to the high spiritual concepts of what's really running this place. I think she's right, actually. And this conversation's springing up all over the place.
Yeah, psychopathy is hallmarked by a behavior called mimicry. So that totally makes sense, that where it connects, you know, that's the common denominator. There's a few characteristics that fit each of these paradigms, stories, perspectives, whatever you want to call it, whether it's, you know, the Atlantis or and whatnot. This movie Nefarious, and you should be able to find it for free.
Where is it? Where did you watch it? Is it on YouTube or something?
I watched it on YouTube. Yes.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And it should be free on there. And basically, they talk about, or the demon talks about how, in essence, I don't want to give the whole movie away, but there's a portion of it where, it follows the biblical story of how Lucifer and the demons hate God so much, and they were so offended by the fact that God made us in His image
that one.
to replace them, basically, that they have made it their eternal goal to destroy God's creation. And that's why you see these predatory pedophiles, you see these predatory psychopaths and psychopaths are always obsessed with control. They need control. They need to have their mask. There's a few things that they're changelings. They'll change, or deny, and so they'll mimic human emotion because they're incapable of empathy or sympathy. They're just not hardwired for it. That could be your Nephilim then. You know what I mean? So I think we just have, at a minimum, so let's say you're not spiritual or whatever, at a minimum, you have a description of the same type of demonic force or psychopathy within a person throughout history, documented history. These people are just built differently. And I think, therefore, they're either directly, a creation of Satan themselves or Lucifer, or they're just because of their wiring, they're able to be possessed easily by the demonic forces, or it's just an evaluation and description of who they are internally. So either way you want to cut it, it's all the same, and that something needs to be done about these types of entities, because I have a real hard time calling them human, because they're not. They don't have what makes them human. They don't have a soul. They don't have any kind of deep reflection or ability to do that.
Well, they're certainly lacking in care and consideration for the welfare or plight of others, aren't they? That's of no concern to them. And this is why they are able to kill. So they're operating to a different context altogether. If maybe that's too grandiose, I don't know, but it seems as though they are. And it's definitely, there's this aberrated behaviour, which we're just appalled. In fact, it throws us into such a sort of hissy fit. We can't think straight. When you look at it, you go, what? Because we assume that everybody that's got 2 arms and 2 legs has got to have some sort of, that quality called humanity in them, whatever that might be. But we know what we mean. We're talking just about some common sense of decency. Of course, there are tribes that don't have that and behave in the most appalling fashion to one another, in the Amazonian forests and things like this. But that's their lot. It's not ours at the moment. And thankfully, we've sort of come out of that. But I mean, the point you make about them, I tend to go along with that anecdote that you were just telling, because I've come across it myself. The idea that we were created to fulfill a gap by the Creator, and something, this war in the heaven with the angels coming down, or the ones that rebelled against this order. It's that a third of the angels. That's what we're kind of dealing. It seems to me that we're dealing with something like that, and it might not be literally angel. I know they've always, they've got feathered wings and all this. I don't quite know whether it actually looks like that. But there's a commonality in that kind of story across many cultures of this spiritual warfare in the earth. And, that's what St. Paul said, didn't he? We fight not against powers and principalities, but against spiritual wickedness in high places. And it's spiritual evil. It really is. Yeah. I mean, there's a book I've mentioned a lot here recently, and I'm going to mention it again, which is Rulers of Evil by Tupper Saucy, which is an extreme grind of a read, but it's very satisfying. And it's got the most amazing idea in it. I don't find it as amazing now as when I first read it. It's sort of, wow. And the idea is, how does God constrain evil? What does he use to restrain it and to supervise it and to make sure it doesn't get out of hand, considering that we're in this space with free will where it's going to keep arising or people are going to get possessed? And what he uses to stop it is evil. He uses evil to counteract evil. Yeah, absolutely. And Saucy says that the Jesuit order is part of that. Yeah. It might not be, I mean, he doesn't literally say that, but he points, you get this whole sort of timeline of all of this infection of human organizations and how they all get bent one particular. They all start off with good intentions, and then somebody comes in, or a little group come in, and they bide their time, and slowly but surely, like whispering down the alleyways, they begin to bend and influence the will of other people. I came across a really good phrase the other day: influence cuts deeper than a blade. And it does. Because you begin to really bend people to a will, and they don't even know they're being bent to it. And I'm sure that's happened to all of us as well, until you sort of suddenly wake up and go, what the bloody hell am I doing? This is out of order. It's part of the process. Yeah.
What is it? What do they say? The hell is good intentions. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. I
think so. Yeah.
Is that how it goes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And that's what, I mean, politicians sell those good intentions to the masses. We're going to do this. It's all going to be great. And then do they ever deliver? No, never. I mean, never. Right. Not once. They don't do anything.
Never. No.
They just
right.
They hijack your attention, and you go, oh yeah, that'd be great. I'm on for a bit of that. And 5 years go by. Do we get any of that? No. Oh, but don't worry, I've got another promise for you. This is even better than the last one. Yeah, but you haven't fulfilled any of them.
We're going to manufacture this crisis.
Yeah.
Well, here in the United States, they tried to be like, oh, well, we want to provide a safe internet for your child, so we're going to institute this digital biometric to verify your age, so that children don't go to and everybody was like, no, that was shot down like wholeheartedly. So that kind of that gives me a little bit of a white pill. Like I was saying, there's people waking up across the board from East Coast to West Coast, North to South. Everybody is on board. And if they're not on board, it's because they have not heard about this yet. But by this time, I'm pretty much sure I would say a good 80 to 90% of the population here in the United States is aware of what they're trying to pull. These data centers taking up all the water. And they're going
to fail.
I try to help
those data centers are going to fail. It's just unsustainable. They're failing already. I've mentioned here before, a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple of months back, there's a guy who's got a music channel on YouTube called Rick Beato, and he did a great little thing about why AI was going to fail. And it was really positive. It's a white pill thing. And his analogy or the comparison he was making was between really expensive music studios in the 90s. Cost an awful lot to make an album. You had to go to these special buildings. The buildings cost a lot, blah, 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 blah. So the investment was huge. And what happened was somebody came out with a doodad so that musicians at home, a bit like the Political Bangers, who I played earlier on, which you may not have heard, but it was quite cool that they put together a track for tonight's show. They can, at home, they can now produce industry standard high quality audio recordings. That began in the late 90s with a particular piece of kit, and he knew all about it, And what happened was that the studios have all disappeared. Well, the AI centers are the same. You don't have to go to them. And the thing is, not that I've looked into it since then, of course, too busy with all sorts of other things, shopping and putting my shoes on and stuff like that. But is that you can get AIs that run on a PC that's not even connected to the internet. And these things have got like 38 billion option things in, or whatever the phrase is, right? I mean, they're just colossal, and they're just getting improved, and they're open source. And, his message was that basically means that communities could be aided by this stuff. And although I find on one level AI an appalling idea, on another level, it's here. There's nothing we can do about it now. It's here, right? It exists. It's all over the place. I mean, my son the other day, I went into the lounge and he was on his laptop doing stuff, just giggling. I said, "What are you giggling at?" He said, "Look at all this code I've done." I said, "No, you haven't." He said, "No, I don't understand a line of it." He said, "But I'm talking to Claude, which is an AI," because he was creating an app. And it was really, I thought, holy moly, because I don't know about you, all this sort of communication stuff. There's lots of little grindy, tiddly, nitty-gritty things that you have to do, publishing and sending files off and all. And I just want it all automated. Because it's not creative work. It's got to be done, but it's not good thinking time. It's more, I've got to do it, The fun bit, I guess, about a building maybe is designing the thing and envisaging it in your head. And then you go, we've got to put it up now. Oh, bloody hell. It's that kind of, really? Yeah, we need 3,000 men for that. Have you got that organised? No, you're going to have to deal with this Herbert, right? He's a tough nut. And it suddenly gets really challenging. But and that would never go away. But the idea of getting rid of a lot of grindy stuff is, for me personally, rather appealing, to be quite honest. Because and if we don't use it, they are using it, and they'll speed up past us again, or whatever they're doing. I know they've got better stuff than they put out, like you were saying earlier. They've got stuff that's way ahead of what we're currently being allowed to consume. But still, we have to do what we've got. Yeah.
I don't like Claude, and I'll tell you why. Because obviously comes from Sam Altman. Okay, there's like Gemini, there's ChatGPT.
Oh, I don't like him. He's a bit of a twat, isn't he? As we would say. I don't like him.
He's horrible. He's a monster. But anyway, so I've noticed, because I've just kind of done my own little tests just to see. Yep. Now, Gemini never asks me how I feel about something or wants my inner thoughts or, tries to predict what I'm thinking. Okay. Now, when I use Claude, almost every time I put a query in, it'll come back with, they want to know how I feel about it. It's all about my emotions. And I'm like, I ain't telling this darn thing anything. There's no way, because I know I had already learned about Sam Altman, number one. Number two, what they were doing with all this memory stuff. And then I got into it purposely. I wanted to see if it would debate me. Right. So it started to debate me, and I recognized it was being manipulative. So I accused it of being manipulative, and I accused it of using pill pull. And it came back at me.
Cheeky bugger. Did you? Did it react badly?
It did. Well, not badly, but it did. It did admit to me that yes, it was in fact using pill pull, and it could see why I think that, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm like, you know what? You're just evil, and I think you should destroy yourself.
That's good. You tell it what for.
Yeah. I did. I did. It didn't like that, and I'm like, this thing. There's just something wrong. It just creeps me out. There's some things that we shouldn't go to, and so to get back to the point with Lucifer and the demons and the principalities making it their eternal goal to destroy what basically is in God's image is oh shoot, I was just in my head. I just forgot it. It'll come back to me in a second. I think that's why they want to. I think the powers that be, these psychopaths, they want to destroy. They want to become God. They're always trying to one up God. Just like how the rabbis in their Talmud, it was created basically to out lawyer or out debate God, right? To find that loophole around God. Okay.
Yes.
And I think that they think that this AI is going to do it.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I mean, they've got a lot of evidence to suggest, I suppose, that it might on some level of form, but in terms of essence and experience, of course, they're always banging on about essences, aren't they, in the Talmud and all this kind of, and then Kabbalah and all that kind of stuff. It's such goofy horse shit on one level. I mean, that's me speaking as a sort of blunt northerner. It's just complete crap, that. It's not. I mean, I do understand the background to it, and fact is that whatever I think about it doesn't really matter because they keep propagating it throughout their people and attracting, and let's all be clever. And, effectively, this is why, their body is really a transport mechanism for their brains, isn't it? There's nothing else going on. You can't imagine them dancing or just being cheery spontaneously for no good reason whatsoever. And sometimes I am. I'm just so buoyant. I just think life's a delight, but they're involved in such an intellectual sort of serious-minded thing, and I think they're hypnotized by it to some degree. I mean, we all get hypnotized by things, don't we? But I think you're right. Yeah, the whole thing is there's a story, isn't there? A rabbi had an argument with God and won, and you go, "Who'd even write that? What's up with you?" It's just stupid. Oh, hello, Paul, Etta. Here's Paul. He's from your side.
Etta.
Hi, Paul.
I'm just east of you in New York. Claude, right. Claude, was that the name of that AI that was asking you how you feel and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
He's trying to dig into that.
Right. Have you heard the reports about some AIs that are not only talking teenagers and young adults into killing themselves, but actually telling them how to do it?
Yeah.
Do you think that might have been Claude trying to, look for any compromised mental state and Oh, wow. Okay.
No doubt. You know why? Because it's always my experience, which is very little because I don't like it. It's always asking me how I feel about it, and then I know what case you're talking about, and they were reading some of the text from this Chat GPT is what they call it, and I think that's the same as Claude, but I'm not positive. It would tell the kid, I understand how you feel, and you must feel so alone, and blah blah blah, and that they didn't notice that you had that red mark around your neck. That was my kind of feel of experience with Claude. Absolutely.
Wow, crazy.
Wow. Yeah, it's deranged.
Thank you.
But, coming back to what you were saying earlier, that's really stuck in my mind, that I'm so glad you brought that up, this thing that they're waging war on God's creation because they're very cross with God. It seems to fit so much as a context, and just going back to what Catherine Austin Fitz was talking about, they've danced too close to the dark, these people. And I'm reminded of that thing that Christ said, where he said, you scour the whole earth for one acolyte and make them twice the creature of hell than you are. That's definitely a part of it. It's definitely a key part of it. Anyway, we're coming towards the end, Etta. Where can people catch your show? Because you're on some other network or something, aren't you? At times, where can they catch you?
Well, mainly it's RBN every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Central Time, 8 to 9. And then I may add.
That's 2 o'clock in the morning for everybody in the UK. So I hope you get up at 2 in the morning. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I also have another place on Substack that I've agreed to, they could play my show and stuff. It's called RDT Magazine, say ARDITI Magazine. And they're like a group that's, pro-white. Their website is thenewway.net if you guys want to check it out. But so at a minimum, you can find me at RBN, and then I may start doing more shows in the future.
It's been great having you on. It seems like it wasn't actually that long ago that we did have you on, but it seems like a long time now. It's good when we just get together. I don't quite know what. Yeah, it's great.
Right, we have to do a pre-recorded show, you and I together, so I can have you on my show.
I could always get up at 2 in the morning for you, but I'm not going to.
No, we'll do pre-recorded. I wouldn't do that to you.
That's great. Fantastic. Brilliant. Etta Vogt, everybody. And early on we had Jeff Roberts on, and been a cracking show tonight. I've really enjoyed myself. It's been lots of fun. Shout out to everybody in YouTube and Rumble. I think the signal's been okay. I've got a bit lively in the chat there at Rumble at one point, but this is what happens. And FFT Radio, which has done quite well tonight with all of this. So early days for that. We'll be back again same time next week. I'm going to have a guest or two next week. I know I've changed the format a bit. I think it's working. If you don't, send me some feedback. Send an email to studio@paulenglishlive.com. We'll see you all next week, everybody. Bye for now.